Hello, and welcome to another episode of Also Curious. I'm not frozen on the screen. This is my, famous character in the soon-to-come-out indie hit based on the Tom Cruise original, where I'll be starring as Daniel Jabroni Khan, called Topped Gun. That's Topped Topped Gun. Coming out soon. But anyway, rundown. We're going to be doing open mic. As we usually do. There's no surprise there. CCXP 22 trailers. There's a bunch of those. We'll be talking about the Brazil Comic Con. That'll be fun. Autocorrect movie titles, something new. We'll play a game. Autocorrect has played a tangible role in all of our lives at some point in our lives. And today it's gonna ruin movie titles for us. Then we will pay tribute to Jason David Frank. And after that, as promised last show or last week, DDLJ, we'll review that. The Bollywood Virgins Watch series continues. And with that in mind, let's get the show shizzle, so whatever, on the road.
Well, ain't it that time again? It is another episode of Oh So Curious, and here I am after a week of the beginning of holiday shopping and the introduction of all kinds of interesting apps. I want to talk to you people about this AI thing. But in the meantime, before we get to that, Dan, thank you for the introduction. And joining me today, Angelina, how are you today?
Oh, it's a good time. I feel like I have 8 holiday parties to go to next week. Somehow around this time of year, I become more introverted. Like I just don't want to experience the holiday bliss that everybody's talking about.
Have you done a 23andMe to see if you're related to the Grinch?
No, terrible. I love Christmas, but people are so overwhelming this time of year and their energy is all like chaotic. And
really?
Everybody's energy, all of my friends, their energy is like, and I'm like, leave me
alone. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if holiday spirit is exactly what it's more of a prescriptive idea, like, hey, calm down, as opposed to everybody always feels great. And because clearly in your life, that's not the case.
Everybody just is like over the top and their energy is really like frenetic this time of year because they're trying to get all of this stuff done. Like my mom called me and I'm going home for Christmas for 10 days and she called me and I literally was like, can you take a couple deep breaths? Are you okay? And I was like, I didn't understand why she was freaking out. She's like, so who's going to pick you up from the airport? Are you going to get a rental? And I'm like, Mom,
I'll figure it out.
We've done this every year since I moved away at 18. Like, relax, Mom. It was really weird, but I feel like everybody kind of has an energy this kind of year. And being a bit of like, not to sound woo-woo, but I'm definitely like an empath. Like I just pick up on other people's energy that I think I just get scared.
I am the same way.
I'm like,
it sucks that word's become an empath. Like I have empathy and also like people's energy affects me. That's sort of, honestly, it kind of goes part and parcel with being a performer, I think, because you realize that pathway is open in people's lives. And so you understand like, oh, I can affect other people with what I do because I'm tuned into how this works on me. So
And so yesterday, like I was at this huge holiday party and it was a lot of fun. But today I'm just like, God, I don't want to leave my house for like 5 more of these next week. I just don't want to do it. So
that's introversion for you. I don't know if you've seen this, but it got me a little nervous. It also gave me a little bit of insight into AI. Have you heard of Lensa?
No, but is that all of the photos that I'm seeing all over my Instagram page? It's really weird. It's
super weird.
Cool.
Weird.
I'm also wondering if it's one of those trends. You know how like all of these trends come out about once or twice a year, and then really it's just the government trying to use it to like track Oh, is that a conspiracy theory? It might be.
I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. I mean, so
Okay.
if you're watching this and you don't have any idea what it is, it's called Lensa.ai, and you have to pay, number one. They don't tell you that. You also have to give them 20 pictures of yourself from different angles, and basically it's the same kind of hype that we saw about photo filters when Instagram came out,
Yeah.
or like when Apple came out with Photo Booth and you could, change all of the camera effects. It's that, except this is the next iteration of that, where it generates hyper realistic renderings of you in all these different styles.
It's
and
cool, but it's weird.
super
It's like
weird.
choose your fighter. But then I'm also wondering if like in those agreements, I would be interested to like read all of the terms and see if they're selling it to video game overhead companies for
Yeah.
inspiration for new characters.
I mean,
Because
I don't know
I
if it's-
can't see.
New characters is one interesting thing to think about. Where my mind went was, if you've ever seen Minority Report, I think that's what it is with Tom. Is it Tom Cruise? No.
Yes.
What am I thinking? Yes.
No, it would be. It would be Tom Cruise.
So he's walking through the mall and the ads change to look like him, and they're smiling at him. And
Oh, that's so creepy.
yeah, but that's what I think, that's where I see this going is
Yeah.
advertising. Because what are you really, I mean, unless it really is, hey, we can generate these images of you and incriminate you and doing
Yeah.
something crazy. But it also gave me a little bit of insight into how the AI works, because I could see a little bit into it. It's not so much intelligent as much as it is like an extension of something you tell Photoshop to do when you're working in that. So
It reminds me too heavily of Black Mirror. Like,
yeah,
I'll be honest, a lot of the technology nowadays, especially when it comes down to AI, freaks me out because I've seen those movies and I don't think it ends well for us, like as a human population.
and that's the thing. That's the thing with AI. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this, it's not the intelligence of the machine. That doesn't exist. That's not the
Yeah.
threat. It's the people who have the technology who are going to put it out there and say, yeah, we have this picture of Andrew doing something horrible.
Yeah.
Here it is. And people are going to have to go, is that real? Is that fake?
Yeah.
And we had to worry about this with deep fakes also, where it's like, there's no legal precedent for these kinds of things,
Yeah.
but it's opening up a pretty scary box.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, like referring to the government and stuff like that. Like they said that, what was the trend last year? It was like the aging in 10 years or something, and you take the photo and it ages you 10 years.
Yeah.
And then there was like sort of back end speculation that the government was actually using these images to get people like across the country that they haven't been able to like find them.
Yeah.
And was using it for other stuff. Like, what people just don't understand, and speaking as a content creator, like I know I put myself out there every day, right? Like I'm on TikTok. I did delete my Twitter, but I know that you can still find those tweets I made when I was like 16. Dear God.
Yeah.
And I've had Instagram since I was like 14 years old. And I really respect those parents that don't let their kids on it before a certain age, because what we don't understand, and nobody actually reads the terms and agreement.
No.
Everything we post is on the internet, and legally they can use it for whatever they want. We agree legally to sign over our rights. And so there's a lot of like argument between photographers and models about like who owns the images and who can post. Technically, any photographer, if they have your image, or like, you guys ever hear about the weird like wiki feet pages? I like Googled myself one day and somebody had taken my photos on Instagram and like zoomed in on my feet and made a wiki feet page of me, which
Wow.
is weird. Do not look for it.
Link in bio.
So weird.
Link it right in the comments here.
But
in
it's
the description.
freaked me out.
That's
But
crazy.
I thought that's like an AI based thing. Like,
No,
is that not
it
like
is so weird.
Wow.
It is so weird. And I
People have time
opened
to
up
do this
about it
crap.
and I
Yeah.
talked to my friends about it and they were just like, yeah, it's happened to me too. And I'm like, this is a thing. And so that's like,
I want you to know, this is my first time hearing the word wiki feet.
you're joking. Oh my God. Yeah, it was so weird. But legally, I have no right to say a word because I sign over my rights to those images once I post it on Instagram.
Although I will
Technically,
say a lot
anybody
of
can
that
take
stuff,
them.
there was this really good documentary about like I think it was called Terms and Conditions. This came out a while ago and it kind of tackles this exact subject matter. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how well this kind of a thing would hold up in court if it ever got taken to court. It probably already
that's
has.
good.
I don't know what the I don't know like what the
I mean, I
results were
guess
or
if that
whatever.
person is like making money off of my feet, I could probably sue
No,
them, right?
well, that is just disgusting. I mean, I'm talking more specifically about the idea of, post something on Instagram and then the social media company owns basically your image rights in a manner of speaking, right? Or at least the right to that image.
Well,
So,
but
Yeah.
here's the other thing is like
Yeah.
they can tweak these. And what's so interesting about these pictures is how close they get to you, but then these little things that they get wrong, and
Oh,
it can be
interesting.
just off, it can basically be you, but it could just be you with a slightly longer nose or bushier eyebrows or a thicker beard or longer hair or darker skin or whatever, but you recognize yourself in it. And
Yeah.
you see maybe other things that got into it, but there's so much potential for misuse on these things.
Yeah.
And it's right now it's just fun, we're just diving into it, but we're setting ourselves up for a pretty scary future where we won't know what's real.
And honestly, I'll be
Yeah.
really honest with you. I don't know if it's dependent upon the photos that like some of my model friends are uploading,
Yeah.
but their IA versions of them literally just look like anime porn. Like,
Well,
it's
the thing is,
wild.
so here's the other thing is it breaks it down into different styles.
Yeah.
So some of them will look like anime, literally explicitly will say our anime collection for you. There's an astronaut one, there's a movie poster one, there's a rock star one. And so you're being stylized. It's you plus whatever they think would be interesting for people, to post.
Yeah.
And so, and you're paying every time you put more pictures in, which is another weird part of this.
How much, like how many photos does it give you?
For $6, you can get 100. And I think for $4, you can get 50. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
By the
I'll just go
way,
ahead and say it. I tried it and I was
future, y'all.
like, this
Can
is
I-
weird. And I
This is
regret
not
Wait,
it.
can
even
I
just-
see them?
This is
I wanna
something
see
that Photoshop actually has. You don't even need to get, well, I guess most people don't have Photoshop or don't know how to use Photoshop. But
Yeah.
Photoshop
Also,
is
Adobe in general
Yeah.
is kind of expensive if you guys don't have like already.
Yeah.
Like I have it, but I know a lot of people that are like, what's Adobe? So
Mhm.
because like literally this is okay. I kind of well, here's I think I told Brian about this when I did this. So I have a small story. Photoshop has introduced these AI filters, like which they allow you to kind of like age people up, make somebody who's not smiling smile, or somebody smiling make him look sad. They can even like add, a teeth, like if you were smiling but not your teeth out, and somebody wanted to make you look happier, you could do that. It gets creepy.
It's
not
super
very,
creepy.
yeah.
Here's
they're not
like
here's
that
me as a
where-
rock star.
realistic.
wait, that's awesome. Wait, are you crying?
No, they
Oh,
put like a
Andrew,
David
it's
Bowie
so
thing.
hard to see it. Oh, I'm kind of, yeah, it's good. I like
It-
that.
Yeah,
It's a vibe.
it's a vibe. I don't know, but it's
It's a
just
vibe.
Yeah. I fell for the advertising. I was like a friend of mine posted one. I was like,
I think we should
interesting.
all do it now, just so that we have it. We already put ourselves out there so much. I haven't really done anything that the government can come at me for. I'll be honest.
There was
But it was after I jumped into the water where I was like, Oh, wait a minute.
That's what good marketing does to you. It makes you forget all of the rest of it.
Yeah.
I
So
actually, sorry.
this was like the big thing for me this week. I was like, this was sort of the trend I just wanted to talk about. I don't know if we have to devote the whole show to it, but I just wanted to touch on it.
Yes.
Thanks
I
for
like
humoring me.
Yeah.
I wanted to
In the
point out
meantime-
something real quick about this exact subject. If you are interested, I mean, there's been a lot of, you pointed out Minority Report. But for those interested in it, they don't want to necessarily, or if you're not a fan of Steven Spielberg, maybe you're not a fan of Tom Cruise, or you just don't think, you want to watch a movie that's like 18, 20 years old. There is a movie that came out recently, which kind of, I mean, there's a couple of movies. There's one on Netflix, which I forget the name of the actor who was in it, but it was basically about this idea where everybody wears these lens modifications, like these like contact lenses that sort of like always recording what you see. And then that movie
This is
was
Black
all
Mirror,
about,
isn't it?
no,
That's what
this
it
is not
sounds
Black Mirror.
like.
This is a movie on Netflix. Netflix is a lot of stuff about like these kind of topics. So
That's the
you can
thing.
check
We're
the
always
movies that
warning
Netflix.
people about this stuff.
Daniel,
But-
I just heard your accent for the first time. You just had a little bit of an accent in the way that you said that. Yeah, I've never heard it before.
Oh,
It pops out here and there.
I was like, oh,
what accent
movie
do
is
I
this?
have?
that looks like Black Mirror.
This is not okay. This is not the Netflix movie. This is the one that is on HBO Max, and I think this released either late last year or earlier this year. It's called Kimi, Kimi. It's obviously, so there's Zoe Kravitz is the lead, and it's sort of
Kimi.
dealing with like the same subject matter, where people are listening into your conversations, or there's like people can change footage, and like you were made to like look like you were somewhere where you weren't, or you were never there at all. And it kind of gets into like the more powerful AI gets. Right now, we're still maybe half a step away from really this being tangible reality.
And that's what freaked me out. I
Makes
was
it
like,
so
this is
scary,
this
yeah.
is phase one.
Yeah.
This is like
it freaks me out.
It's still getting things wrong. But for me to think
Yeah.
it could get a lot better. It could do video. It could,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really it's just
Well-
giving this to the wrong person. Putting this in the wrong hands, and now it's in everyone's hands. And so we're going to have to get smarter and be like, that's AI, and we have to look for that.
I think
that
that's going to
thing.
be that's going to be one of those things. You're right, exactly. That's what it's going to end up being. Is we're like, people today are just not like, it's kind of like if you ask for a person to thrive in a world with the internet who comes from a pre-internet age, they would really fail in so many aspects of life, because they just don't know how to operate with the internet as an essential part of your life.
For reference, think about how much your grandparents struggled with learning how to use an iPhone.
My grandmother literally refuses to have a cell phone, and I thought she was batshit crazy. Because I was just like, Grandma, like, we can't. How do you still have a landline phone? Like, what happens when that goes down? Like, what is wrong with you? We don't know where you are when you leave the house. But her reasoning is, I don't want to have internet. I don't want a cell phone. I don't want people to have like a GPS locator for me. And this lady is old. Maybe I'm like built to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm too logical. So I argue.
Skepticism's great. Healthy skepticism will keep you alive in this world. And
she still to this day
believe.
refuses. Yeah,
I don't.
She won't. Yeah, she won't. She won't keep a cell phone. She doesn't want it on her. She thinks that like the interference like could cause cancer. She's very much one of those, and I'm like,
I will say this: that theory. I mean, okay, look, most people will tell you that it's on a day-to-day basis. You're not getting exposure that's deadly or causing real harm. However, we are still only maybe a generation and a half into a world, if that, where you're surrounded by like these, different signals, and this level of saturation we have today versus even like 10 years ago, before like the iPhones and smartphones took over. So that we don't know what we have some idea of the short term like side effects or lack thereof, but we don't know what like the true long term, like over the course of, I don't know, like 50 years of living in that kind of an environment will do to you, because there simply isn't, that time hasn't passed. So
but I will also tell you, like, I can see I have a plant right by my front door, and originally I put it there to like cover this electrical outlet that's like right at my front door. It just doesn't look very cute. So I use this plant, and it's growing, but it consistently is growing away from the electrical outlet, and the leaves that were closest to the electrical outlet literally like burnt off, but it was never touching. Like they've like dried up and died. And I'm like, oh,
That's some cosmic consciousness stuff.
That's probably just the
okay.
current jumping from the that I can see that maybe that's like static electricity. And
I mean, it's a little bit further. Like it's like this, there's like that much space, but the plant is growing away from the electrical outlet.
Yeah.
Like towards the sun, which is totally normal. That's fine. But it's the burnt, crispy leaves at the back for me that I'm like,
It could be just residual.
It's the
heat
crispy
from the
leaves
outlet,
for
too.
me.
Anyway, well, you know,
that.
the graphic at the bottom says the most wonderful time of the year, and I feel like we're going in the complete wrong direction. Okay. Where to pivot?
It is the most wonderful time of year.
Yeah.
It's great.
Anything else did you guys watch? I mean, other than
no
filters and
no. I mean, the graphic also says comment of the week. Should we get to that?
We could, yes. Today we
let's
have
take
two.
a look.
Yes.
2.
Oh gosh.
Irene KS. Irenix? We'll never know. Sorry about the prude thing. I wonder what that's like. Wink. But if it's any consolation to you, it's not mandatory to like Rhaenyra at all. Thank you. I'm consoled. This is from the Game of Thrones, or no, the House of the Dragon season 1 review, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I went real like clickbaity hard on the thumbnail for that. It was like, you know, I had a selection of 12 images to pick from. I'm like, which one of these will people click on? And I was like, I've lost my sense of morality with this stuff, and I don't mind. That's just what YouTube does to you these days. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I said I absolutely. It's not that I just don't like Rhaenyra. I'm just not compelled to learn more about her story. There's just nothing. I don't find her interesting. So
it's also like I didn't watch all of the show. I just have a problem with like watching shows and movies where the main protagonist is not sympathetic. Is that the right way to describe?
So she's not very likable. They don't build her character to be very likable. And that's kind of the problem. But also I think it was done on purpose, because there's kind of a back and forth where you're rooting for the queen, right? And then you're rooting for Rhaenyra. And I think it was purposely set up to...
At no point was I ever rooting for Rhaenyra.
Really? Not even
once.
See, I was rooting for her like when the queen came for her and like tried to I mean, I've been rooting for her honestly the whole time. But
if to respond to the comment, really, it's just like, if you watch the whole thing, there's no logical reason why this story should get any attention, because it's a stupid idea that the king makes, totally emotionally, and she's this entitled teenager, but all of the townspeople, all of the people in the, conspiring against her to like instate Aegon as the king. Like, it's so
Aegon?
Clearly not a good idea and not a realistic idea. So it's just like, why are we doing this? And so anybody thinking rationally in this, I'm like, okay, thank you. Why is she reacting like this? It doesn't make sense. She's just entitled.
I mean, Aegon, okay, moving on. Sorry.
I'll just say this.
No, he's not the right guy, but you just look at Succession period. I'm just like, that's how that works.
By the way, Angelina, for context, Andrew's reviews of House of the Dragon, like we did episodic reviews, there were some really, really fun comments that came in. And it was just a lot of fun because...
I love House of the Dragon. I nerded out for that show. I used to literally watch like weekly recaps of it. I loved Game of Thrones, and I read the majority of the books. They're really long, so I didn't get through all of them. The books are definitely better than the show, but the showrunners did a great job up until the last season. And so when House of the Dragon came out, I was like, I hope they get this right. And I feel like they did. And they set it up for multiple seasons. I feel like the arcs they showed in the first season are going to build that show up for the next.
That's where I came down on it. It was like,
Yeah.
I did not care for this first season, but a lot of shows have had really horrible first seasons. The last episode gave me hope for, correcting all of the sins of Game of Thrones and making it an interesting show, because by the time they started getting out of, their kingdom and into the other houses, I was like, yeah, that's what I liked about Game of Thrones. It's like, it was all of these different things happening all over the place.
But I think it also has to set it up to get there, right? Because without the Civil War, like, they talk about this era of, even within Game of Thrones, like this era of the Targaryens as being like the golden era for all of not only Westeros, but like the whole country and sort of the whole like world within Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that there has to be a civil war, because it has to split up the Targaryens.
Totally. So yeah, like I said, I have hope for it. I will give the second season a shot. But I was kind of bored for most of this first season.
I will just say there was that oh shit moment when the dragon eats a lot more than was intended, and the last episode was kind of funny, like especially if you play circus music under it. Just the whole expression on, was it Aegon? I forget. Like they're all the same. They have the same name.
Oh well, that was the
is it Aemon?
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Who was the
theme song? That's
When
Aemon.
the little boy
Aemon,
gets eaten.
Yeah.
Yo, that broke my heart. I was like,
I laughed so hard.
and you guys are like
No,
laughing. I'm
it's
like,
hilarious.
Because
look at his. It's just his. You know what made it okay? But I don't like the way Game of Thrones does a few things. Like the way they approach VFX is kind of like, I'm like, you have millions of dollars that you're putting into this. But here's the point.
The show looks good.
The VFX don't actually, they're not actually as good as some people think, because like this is where the Rings of Power, I think, really like stood apart for me, because they did VFX
that show was so bad I couldn't get through the first
bad show, but Dan's right. It did that show, just the stills were beautiful.
Yeah, because like in House of the Dragon, like think about this. That scene where the dragon thing happens in the air, which by the way, the expression on his face was priceless. It was hilarious.
I love that. Yeah.
It was just so savage, because I'm like, I don't care enough about this show. I'm just like watching it and laughing at it sometimes. So like to me, that was my reaction naturally, just to be like, oh, look at what whatever. The point is though, they clearly they were shooting this either on a volume stage, or or more likely they were shooting this on a green screen. And he's obviously on some kind of like thing that it's like a moving piece, whatever they call it, like a saddle or something. But you could see that they had this artificial light bloom applied on the way they composited the shot with the sky behind him. And the other thing I hate about Game of Thrones is they shoot so much day for night for a show that has enough money per episode on its budget to actually shoot at night and light it properly. And they do they do too much day for night, and part of that look, what you get is a very flat image, because they have to just darken the shit out of it. And then
Dan pays real close attention to this stuff.
Yeah.
That the casual viewer is just like, I don't know.
Make it make sense, Dan, because the movie we're reviewing today is so.
But the movie we're reviewing today was made for like $4 million in 1995. I think it was even less than that.
And they could have spent more money on the stunt person.
That's the weakness of the film that anybody would point out. I will be honest with you about that. That's not really the reason why people like the movie. Anyway,
but also,
we have a second comment of the week.
On.
We have a second comment of the week. So the first one was a little critical of Andrew. The second one, much less so. So here it is.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, comment of the week. Creeping doubt. Good job. Okay, look at that. Giving a hectic but subtly crafted movie the appreciation it deserves. I'm an old fogey, so I was pleased with the total absence of vulgar language. I hope you'll keep that up. Okay. Your thoughtfulness is welcome, and your patience in spelling out your reactions, especially the most emotional ones, is what I found most valuable in your work. I wish you talked more about Williams, LaBelle, and Hirsch performances. While you're scrupulous not to reveal the content of the closing cameo, I don't think your description of the person portrayed as a jerk is quite the word you were looking for. It was a it was expedient. That seems to me the only very minor slip in the entire 10 minutes. Please keep going. I've subscribed. Well, look at that. We got a subscriber, and it looks like I've got a fan. That movie really did a number on me. I went to see it alone at the Laemmle Theater. I was the youngest person in the audience there, and I think just about everybody there, minimum age, had to be 60 if you didn't include me.
Wow.
And everybody in that theater loved it. And yeah, I try to be considered in everything that I say. Sometimes when we're taping these shows, I gotta get things out quickly. But that one, I hadn't been that emotionally moved by a film in a really long time, especially to the point where I had to talk about it. So there were some pauses in there where I was like, yeah, this hit me a little deeper than I expected to. I'm glad that resonated with you, and thanks for subscribing. We always appreciate that. And I'll try not to swear so much.
No, that was a really good comment. It was it's good to, because we get a lot of comments where people are just kind of like attacking Andrew for his cool contrarian views, as we like to call them.
I can't help it. It's my name.
Yes, that's how you earn it. But no, it's always good to see somebody kind of like, we got that Hagrid comment. Well, not Hagrid, the Robbie Coltrane was a memorable comment the other week. No, it's by the way, The Fabelmans, it is a complete flop at the box office. And I was reading an article in Variety VIP Plus. They're like a subscription-based version of Variety, where they were talking about how it's sort of a trend where a lot of these movies that are essentially like you could consider them Oscar fodder, but they don't do well at the box office. I mean, usually these kind of movies, they pick up an Oscar season.
Just out of curiosity, because I saw Glass Onion the night before. Is that flopping? It should.
It made like no. It did way better than anybody could have ever thought it would. It made like 15 million off like 600 and something theaters, which is on a per theater average was 19,000 per screen, which was around 3 or 4 times. Actually, it was almost twice of what Black Panther did that weekend with over 4,000 screens and 64 million. It did. They left a lot of money on the table. Like they could have made, if they gave it a true wide release, it would have made like 60, 70 million, I think was the number they were calculating. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, that's why you're the cool contrarian, right? I mean, look, I haven't seen either movie. I can't speak to either their quality.
Yeah.
I just know that The Fabelmans has been getting really, really good reviews, but it just seems like it's the kind of movie that's not. I just think we're living in an era.
It's not for this generation. I think is the real
part
thing.
of it is these kind of movies just don't perform as well in theaters because the audiences, especially in the pandemic, I think a lot of the older audiences still haven't come back to theaters on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what it boils down to. It's like if it's not catching the eye of like the 15 to 25-year-olds.
If there's something I can say about that movie in support of it, I would say the feeling that you associate with that good movie feeling going to the theater, that movie magic feeling that you would walk out and be wowed by it. This is the only movie that has done that was actually worth going to the theater for. Some of the shots really make sense, and you can really appreciate them more in the theater. I mean, I wasn't even in one of those like super nice luxury theaters with the reclining seats. I was just in a dark room with a big screen and wonderful sound, and it took me there. And if you're going to have something that can stream on Netflix, watch it on Netflix. You don't need to go buy a ticket for that.
And Andrew's not a Steven Spielberg fan. So
I haven't been. I'm going to go back and see if I like his stuff after this.
I need to go see it because every time you talk about it, it's like, I'm going to love it.
I'm giving it its own Oscar speech right now. Yeah.
I didn't ask. I don't think I've asked you this at all since the movie came out, and I don't know if you mentioned this particularly in your review. But I was curious. I mean, so Steven Spielberg, he's Jewish to the best of my knowledge, and he grew up in a Jewish household, and like his part of his upbringing and everything. And you've mentioned this in past, and there's like you mentioned the Steve Carell project that is on Apple TV Plus, and like like how well did he depict the Jewish tradition, and is that, do you think, I don't know honestly if they marketed this movie, to the audience, like who would go like oh my god, like this is something that's great, but do you think that played a big role? And obviously I think it was a big influence on Steven Spielberg, but like do you think they got it right in the movie, because it is semi-autobiographical? I don't know how accurate it is to the real life story of Steven Spielberg.
That's the thing. First of all, yes, bottom line is yes, but there is something, it's almost indescribable, a feeling of Jewishness, that's just in the delivery of lines, that's in the perspective, that only comes with being one, or being around them, or just sort of dialing into that frequency where you're like, yeah, these feel, for me, these feel like my people. And it's not like it really, it's just sort of a feeling. Spielberg, that's a Jewish name for sure, but he it's not so much the traditions, they celebrate Hanukkah, but it's that they're driving through the neighborhood with all these Christmas lights, and his parents go, oh, it's really hard to find our house, and little kid Steven Spielberg basically goes, well, ours is the one with no lights. It's these little things where it's like, yeah, we're kind of these outsiders, and that's part of the perspective of basically being a minority in the in America. He goes to different schools, and he deals with anti-Semitism in different ways. Like, he gets actually bullied for it, but then even the girl that he's dating, she's Catholic, and as much as they love each other, she's like trying to convert him to Catholicism.
That's crazy to me. I don't know. I grew up Catholic. Like, my mom grew up Catholic. I grew up Lutheran, which is essentially like the closest thing you can get to Catholicism within the sort of like Christian sect of it.
Sure.
And I never came into contact with any, like, truly, my acting teacher in middle school was Jewish, and we never talked about it. And like, I just didn't have any Jewish friends. And honestly, there was like a Jewish school in Tampa, and they all kind of just stayed in like Tampa. Like, I didn't grow up with, I knew one girl who was a friend of a friend that was Jewish back in Florida. So I had no contact with Jewish culture at all, really, until I moved to LA. And honestly, y'all are so nice around Hanukkah. Like, holy crap. I remember, because I worked at this private cigar club for years, and the majority of the community was Jewish. And around that time, like, everybody is so nice. Everybody is so generous. They make these, like, what are they called? Latkes?
Oh, yeah. We're making those today, so actually.
Good, y'all. Oh my goodness. And being from like a German family, culturally, we're very similar. I feel like in certain like food aspects, like familial aspects. And so it's kind of nice to get to see that. Like, growing up German, like, my mom is from Germany. You go visit Germany, you see all of the Holocaust symbols. And we grow up, not symbols, but like shrines, to make sure, because the biggest thing for Germans is like, never forget, so that it's never repeated. And I really appreciate that about the German culture. Like, my mom grew up in Germany, but my great grandmother on my other side grew up in Berlin during World War II. And like, the biggest thing about that is she won't talk about it, but she'll just tell you, like, it was a mistake. It was all a mistake. Oh, yeah. We really.
My whole family is survivors, or what was left. And then some didn't survive. There's a lot I never met and would never. But that's inspiring to hear, encouraging.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, weird tangent
it's
there.
Good, but
it's nice to like get to
take it back to the movie just for a second. Is, your question was about Steven Spielberg and what was it? Steve Carell in The Patient. Now,
right.
I had taken issue with his performance portraying a Jewish man, with Will Ferrell's portrayal of a Jewish man on the Apple TV show The Shrink Next Door, and like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. There's a trend of a lot of non-Jewish actors playing Jewish characters, and
That
for
to
the
me is
most
weird.
part, it's interesting that like
yeah.
that's actually something that people are fine with. I'm noticing that a lot of them really can't pull it off because they don't have that indefinable thing. However, I don't think Paul Dano's Jewish, and he was able to get it, and he did it, and it felt right. Not 100% of the time, but I was like, yeah, whatever it is, whatever he's tapped into there's a little bit of the anxiety and the practical aspect of this high achieving dude who's just like also an outsider. There was something real to that performance, and I don't have the words for it at this point, but in terms of portraying people of other religions or other ethnicities or other cultures, I don't have an issue with it as long as you pull it off.
Yeah.
Try to do it.
Yeah.
Try to
also, do you think in general, I think as an actor, I feel like I would just have to learn so much about it. Like, I feel like all of the actors in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel are Jewish, no?
I don't think the main character is.
I think she is.
Is she?
But I'm not sure. And I think I'm not Jewish, so I can't speak to like the genuineness of it. But I always like really enjoy it. I don't know, like
there's some things that like the writers will make sure like it's framed in a certain way, and it's not really doesn't even have anything to do with the actor. But on the flip side, Jews have had to play Gentiles forever in Hollywood. So it's just like, I don't know, we've had to, in fact, the whole idea of being in America is just kind of like, hey, the majority here is Christian. That it's just sort of something that you can go to Disneyland on Christmas because it's not going to be crowded, or like there's go to the movies because it's not crowded. It's part of the culture, that you can fit in up to a point, and other than that you're kind of an outsider to it. But we're always sort of learning we always have one foot in the culture and one foot out, because we're here but we're not necessarily in the mainstream.
And I think like at the end of the day, there's like something to be said about like representation on screen. I think this is going to come into a conversation we're talking about DDLJ later, in regard to the musical that they're adapting it into the movie, turning into a musical. But like for me this year, like probably the one project that I relate to the most that we have covered on the show was Miss Marvel. And that was because they showed representation of like, Pakistani American teenager growing up in the US, and then they actually go to Pakistan. I don't know how much of that they actually shot in actual Pakistan. I know they shot some stuff but it looked like a lot of that was second unit. They probably, I don't know if they actually shot it there, but just the fact that they were depicting that on screen, like it gives you an extra level of appreciation because you can kind of see yourself on screen, and whenever something like that happens, I think the biggest thing any filmmaker has in mind, I don't think any filmmaker intends to do this wrong, is to like make that depiction as accurate and as respectful as possible. And
I think moving forward, that's
vary,
the best thing that directors and producers can do, is just making sure that there's a genuine representation that is honest and truthful moving forward, because it's doing well for a reason, because obviously those, like, it was just there was no representation before. And so I think moving forward, like, you really have to just do a good job and do more and more of it, I would say.
Well, I mean, I agree that it should be truthful, but like, I think we've overcorrected a little bit. And now we're not seeing a genuine reflection of the actual demographics of the country.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying, is like, that's what we need to strive for. Like, it needs to be a genuine representation and a genuine.
Yeah. No, it is a pendulum swing kind of a thing. Like that's the analogy I like to apply. Like the way society sort of operates, like culture at least, is you kind of go from one extreme to the other before you eventually settle in to like maybe like the sweet spot. And I think we have sort of like, yeah, and then
We've hit the
she
high point on the other end, I think, and
yeah, I think like
we're going to start
She-Hulk is
swinging
probably
back.
the biggest example of that this year, where I think like that show at times went out of its way to critique like certain aspects of culture,
Oh,
which they're not very
yeah.
pleasant, granted, but it was just like I just felt like to give that a platform wasn't maybe the right thing to do, just like especially when it was at the behest of the story itself. But I think like when it's done well, it's not like preaching to you, and I think that's the key. Like it
Yeah,
should just kind of come naturally through the story. Um, yeah.
I think so. Anyway, so that's the two comments of the week. Sorry to take it all those other places.
Yeah. Well,
But let's move on and talk about the CCXP. This was the, you say, South American Comic-Con, basically.
oh,
And so
Yes.
we have
This
a
is
lot of trailers.
this is the so Comic-Con, there's a lot of Comic-Cons throughout the year, right? Um, this is just one of many. I think we had the San Diego Comic-Con, which most people recognize as the Comic-Con. Um, and then we had the New York Comic-Con, and now this week we had we had the Comic-Con that takes place in Rio de Janeiro, which is in Brazil.
This is Brazil.
So as part of that, they had a lot of movies, like studios going out, like Marvel, Lucasfilm did a presentation, and then we had Warner Brothers did theirs, HBO kind of did their own thing. This is something cool that this was an exclusive to the event, so we didn't really. What we didn't get to see is we didn't get this isn't out anywhere. You have to go to the theater to watch the movie. But we got like they played an 18-minute piece of Avatar, The Way of Water. John Landau
Ooh.
and Zoe Saldana was there, and they showed way more of this movie than anybody has seen from the trailers. So that was one of the things. I know we watched some of the trailers before we started the show. They actually announced the release date for The Mandalorian, which I believe starts in March. I think it's the 1st of March. It's basically just when The Last of Us ends. So just when you're done getting Pedro Pascal from HBO Max, you're going to get a little more of him from The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So it's going to be the year of Pedro Pascal. And we got a Last of Us trailer, the
Good year for
full
him.
trailer. We also got, well, I don't know if this was a CCXP thing, but we got the full trailer for the Mario Brothers movie.
looks so cute.
This trailer, by the way, the Mario Brothers trailer, I think might have been my favorite trailer of the week.
It's so cute.
It is.
I
What did you guys? Okay,
not.
What did you guys think about this one? Let's kind of maybe stop and ruminate a little
So
bit.
I actually sent it to a friend, and he was just like, "Why are they speaking with American accents? Isn't Luigi supposed to be Italian?"
Everybody's supposed to sound completely different.
It's sort of like American Italian, right?
Ugh.
I just heard American accents.
It's not even Italian American. It's just Charlie Day talking like Charlie Day. It's just Chris Pratt talking like Chris Pratt. Jack Black's at least trying to do a Bowser, which I think that one I'm okay with, because we never really get growls from Bowser, but we don't really get a voice from him.
Yeah.
But would you be able to like sit through an entire movie with that like Mario video game accent like whole time?
And if they did a good job, yeah.
Yes, because it's
Brazil.
And it's supposed to be what was that?
Sorry,
was
no, that was not supposed to play there. My bad.
No, it wasn't.
Say what you were saying. This was totally accidental, not even joking.
It wasn't even a family bomb.
No, don't do that.
The mushrooms are really cute. I really enjoy the mushrooms. They're like, but we're just adorable. And I'm like, literally, y'all are useless in the game. I'm a big fan that they pointed that out.
To answer your question, could I sit through a whole movie with just the video game voices? Yeah, I have trouble sitting through these trailers that have celebrities talking like themselves with performances that don't match the animation. You know, it's
well, especially as a VO like artist, I'm sure it drives you up the wall. But who's
nuts.
playing Princess? What's her name?
Anya Taylor-Joy is playing Peach.
Okay, I was
and
like,
I love
who
her.
is that? I know
I
that
love
voice.
her. That's not Peach, and particularly there's one shot.
This is Brazil.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
This keeps happening. I literally.
I don't think it's accidental.
No.
Yeah,
This
he's
is,
like,
this is...
I don't actually want to talk about Mario Brothers. Moving on now.
No, okay, I fixed it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just every time I change a shot, it was cued in and it would just kind of play. My bad. Sorry, you were saying something. Keep going.
So there's a shot of Princess Peach like shouting, and the performance that Anya Taylor-Joy is doing is just sort of this like talking, and it's just like, that's not right. That's not right. And so
I wouldn't. Her like whole countenance is too strong to be Princess Peach, and like it looks like they're kind of trying to make the character a little bit stronger than she's in the video game, just based on the trailer, which I like. Right?
The whole idea. No.
I like it.
The whole. Well, you're wrong. But the whole idea with the whole idea with Peach is, it's a character for the girls to play with if they want to play, or something to get them excited about. She loves pink. She's just like the stereotypical girl. But if you've ever played Mario Kart, she's always one of the best characters. She's like faster inexplicably, or handles better. She's great, but she doesn't have to be the strong woman. She just was a woman who is competitive on her own, doing her own thing. She's a great competitor and always has been. Not always. She started off just sort of being
yawning at Andrews.
Like, oh yeah, yawn a bit. I don't care.
Wow.
Listen, I don't think she needed to be, the modern feminist Princess Peach. Maybe they'll won't go too hard on it. For today's
world, I think I think that is.
Oh yeah, people really want that. They really want that.
Yeah, they do. Andrew, talk about representation over here. Strong women.
Nothing wrong with a woman, a successful woman, or a really good competitive
Her
woman.
character.
Why does she have to be
played? I think that's also the weird pendulum thing. Like, I've been having a lot of conversations with friends, and I think the modern girl boss has been taken like a little bit too far, to the point where women can't even be like I'm going to use the word submissive, but I mean it in like stepping into their feminine energy. And so many women feel like uncomfortable stepping back into their feminine energy.
Totally.
And there's a lot of psychological aspects about sitting in a masculine energy for a long time that doesn't necessarily bode well for a woman, because psychologically we're not built for it. And so there are things like in which I love being in my masculine energy. Like, I'm a strong woman, but I think in that pendulum, like, Hollywood has tried to completely critique the like feminine woman.
I think what it is,
and
like,
make her
to bounce off of that, I actually think we're at a point where somebody could write a really good comedy that's centered around your girl boss strong woman, and pointing out how ridiculous all that is, because it is unnatural to like do that to that extreme degrry all the time. To the
extreme,
it would be really. It's ripe for parody right now. So somebody,
you know what that
also,
I was just gonna say, like, what's happening, and basically what it comes down to is like it's kind of similar to like back in the 80s or like 90s, where you like get like the Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger, like their big franchise movies where they were like the definition of a man, like, and they were, but like ultimately, if you really look at it from a writing standpoint, they weren't like these super. I mean, there's exceptions to this. I think the first Rambo movie, First Blood, is a terrific example of where you can round out a character who has a very hard exterior. Because by the end of that movie, I was like, holy shit, that thing got deep. Like, the third act of that movie hits you in ways that I did not expect the Rambo movie to hit me, because like you see like him break down and they truly show like what he's suffering, like the pain and just the horrors of coming back from the Vietnam War. But a lot of these characters used to, like, what they would do is they're just these flat, relatable characters. And I think there's sort of like lazy writing is resulted in seeing like Captain Marvel, for example, like Brie Larson's iteration of it. I don't have a problem with like her as an actress or anything like that. I just felt like in Captain Marvel, her character was very like, I'm the strongest person in the room, and I like it was very flat. Like you couldn't
Yeah.
relate to her all that
Yeah.
much, and
Well, you also
couldn't
have to
really
think about the fact
yeah.
that as a human, male or female, there is the yin and the yang of that, and even men have to play into their feminine energy. I don't know if you've
Totally.
ever
But
seen
that's-
a
but
man
no,
that
but that's-
doesn't. He's kind of just a dick, like, and vice versa. But it's a yin and a yang. So I think truly getting back to what we said earlier too is like there needs to be a more genuine exploration of the human experience on screen, and I feel like we've walked away from that.
Yeah,
in the
well,
last,
I think
10
I think
years.
what you guys are both getting at is like there were flat representations before, and we didn't correct that by, you know, giving them depth. We just made a completely different kind of flat character,
Yeah,
and that's not better. It's just
I think
actually,
part of this
it's
is
more
also driven by
unrealistic.
like corporate
Yeah.
priorities. Like, because you know,
Yeah.
I can almost imagine like somebody is
Wait,
sitting,
whoa, hold on. Is this about money?
oh yeah,
Is that what
it's
you're
about
telling me?
marketing. It's about like I work in marketing for a living, like, you know, with various companies and organizations and all that. And I know, and look, not everybody does it wrong. Like there's plenty of companies and organizations out there that get it right. And they do it with a genuine sense of purpose and they execute well. But there's a lot of like in these movies where you see these bad examples of this kind of like characterization taking place, but you can almost tell that there was some meeting happening with where the studio executives or the market, somebody was like giving notes like, oh, we need to provide representation of this kind of character. Like this needs to be a strong female. No, this is not strong enough. Like this needs to feel like this is Stallone being a superhero. Like,
I mean,
except
just
it's Brie Larson.
I
Like,
always
you know,
think
like
about
it's
I always think about the casting
yeah,
director who's like, okay, this is the list of the type of people we need. No, he's not that enough. She's not that enough. And like they get rooms full of people who are all basically the same thing because that's exactly what they're looking for. And it's just really a matter of, okay, what's the list of things we need? All right, I'll go
Yeah.
get that.
But that's also the list of things that they're given, right? Like I have had
Oh, yeah.
auditions with casting directors that I have like long-term experience, like long-term connections with, and they're just like, this is the list. Like we'd love to work with you in the future, but you don't check off the boxes that the director wants. And
Yeah.
it's like, you're great, we love you, you just don't fit all of these tick, 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 ticks that
but don't
they
you think
want.
that's a little problematic too, in the sense that
Uh-huh.
that list, I mean, you checking boxes should be maybe a part of the process, but it's kind of like, think about it. Here's an analogy, right? If you were trying to get admitted, like if you're trying to apply to college back when you were in high school, they would like look at your guidance counselor would tell you, you need to have a great SAT scores. You need to take part in plenty of extracurriculars, make yourself like, you know, have plenty of volunteer work on your resume.
You just call
Maybe
them
even have
SAT stores?
like, you need to check all those
I heard that.
boxes, but and then, you know, have a really good application. But that seemed like it was like the process was beyond that, and or sometimes it didn't. Like, you know, like you could look at, that's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation. But the point I'm trying to make is that list shouldn't be the be all end all. That should be a starting point, and then you move beyond that and actually cast the right person for the role. And I think the
mean,
best moments are when you cast somebody who you did not initially think was going to fit this role, and maybe completely counter to what that list of, you know, qualities you were looking for was.
and I think
Sometimes.
that is when you
Not all
get
sometimes,
you
right.
get those like star power figures that come out of nowhere, but it is kind of a Hail Mary, and it is often a lot of time nepotism, and it is also
You're kidding.
and so like I look at Tell Me Lies, and I think those actors do a really good job, but both of them have famous parents or famous cousins or famous, like they're all related. And so it's kind of a Hail Mary within the problem, but that goes into a bigger cultural issue too, like a bigger society issue. That's just how things work a little bit.
Well, you know, but and we can talk about the other trailers in a minute, but that's every business.
Yeah.
You know, like to think that I think we place a lot of extra emphasis on entertainment because we're all watching it, but nobody's talking about how this plumber hired his son and he'll take over the business, or like a certain
And he's the
accounting
worst
firm
plumber ever. He fucked up everything, y'all.
It's just like we're placing a big emphasis on nepotism in Hollywood, but nepotism is in every industry.
Yeah.
That's
it's not always a bad thing. And necessarily, it's when nepotism.
People who know the business know the business.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when nepotism, we only time we point out nepotism is when we see somebody who's not otherwise qualified for the role but was given it because they were related. Whereas there's plenty of examples,
the inverse
like you said,
of that
where
is
that's not the
networking,
case.
right?
Yeah.
Like we're told from the moment we graduate, we're told as kids, we're told as humans, like be a good person, make connections, make lifelong connections, make this, make that. And it there's a positive and a negative of it. And we all play into it because it benefits us too if we know somebody that can help us do this and do that.
Yeah.
And we have to take advantage of it. But
that's literally why they say it's who you know.
Yes.
And
so that does go into casting, but I don't necessarily think that like that's the casting director's fault.
No, it's not necessarily their fault, but it is
kind of what Dan
it's
is
the
saying.
objective of casting these days.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on and talk about some of these because we have a lot of other stuff to cover.
That looks fun. I like that.
Yeah. No,
I like the music for it.
The talks are good.
I was talking about Transformers.
You've literally moved on to the next.
Yeah, I said done. I like the trailer for the new Transformers movie. I was really bummed out about the third Transformers. I did not like it. There might have even been one after that. I don't know.
There's been 5.
I didn't like it.
There were 5.
Yeah.
And then they did the Bumblebee movie.
So once they kicked Megan Fox off, I was like, okay. I mean, like I get it.
A lot of us felt that.
That was like after the second movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was after the second one.
And the director, Michael Bay, apparently didn't get along or something. But that stuff really takes me off because it's like your personal relationships literally just affected a whole fan base and you are going to lose out if you don't like calm your ego.
Yeah. And I miss Shia LaBeouf too.
I did like him.
I did like Mark Wahlberg in, what was the first one that he was in? It was he did 2 of them. He did The Last Night and then the one before that, which I forgot the name of.
Was it Dark of Winter, or am I making that up?
No. No, there was a Dark of the Moon, which is the third one.
Dark of the Moon.
Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who kind of replaced.
I hated her.
The Megan Fox thing, the role.
I also feel bad for her though because that was like her intro to acting, and I never saw her do anything again.
Tall order for your first time. Hey, would you just step into this huge movie and replace Megan Fox?
Sorry,
okay.
I think it actually kind of just like ruined her acting career because it was like her first shot, and she was God. They did this with The Mummy too. If you guys remember the Mummy trilogy, the first 2 movies are epic. But then there was a disagreement off screen in which they wouldn't pay both of the leads equal amount of money. And so the female lead stepped down and they literally replaced her with a different actor. Same name, same character, replaced her. The third movie did awful. Like it just never works. It's my biggest irk in movies when they do that.
Yeah,
that's
like find a way to make it work.
Mad.
But
let's talk about this trailer for a second.
Yeah.
So I'm given to understand that the Decepticons and Autobots can now also take on animal forms.
Yeah, that seems legit to me.
I don't know if you guys ever heard of this show. There was an animated show where the animation was terrible, but sorry, let me just do it. So Angelina can, there we go. All right, let me make my point. There was this TV show that was out in the early 2000s or maybe even late 90s that was really bad animation. It was like if you remember the first Toy Story animation, but like make it like 2 times.
Hey, that was groundbreaking.
But you could tell like by today's standards that first Toy Story kind of you could tell like it's not very.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like the first
there's
Shrek
memes
movie.
about it all the time.
But like if you want to take that and like make it twice as worse, or like if you have come across any previs footage from modern blockbusters, that's the quality of animation that Beast, look it up. It's called Beast Wars. It was an animated show where like
I
these
remember Beast Wars.
Transformers land on Earth, but they take animal forms, and later on they find like Optimus Prime and the ones we know, all those the big characters. So that's where this I think comes from. I don't know, maybe there's a even greater heritage, like that was based on comics or something before that, or other toys, but that's how I remember Beast Wars. And that's what the Rise of the Beast is in reference to, is they're bringing in these Transformers who take the form of animals. My biggest thing about this trailer was you could tell this movie is not directed by Michael Bay, and given that he did 5 Transformers movies, and I personally just like the style of filmmaking that Michael Bay has, with like his Dutch angle shots and those big swinging like, you know, helicopter shots, and his insane overuse of gunpowder and all his explosions. And the biggest reason I like that is because he does a lot of those practical effects, and then you take world-class ILM animation of those Transformers, which it's a mirror. I can't even imagine how much work it is to put millions of pieces together and animate them into transforming into the kind of forms they do. I just, in Bumblebee, I think they took a smaller, they took it down to a smaller scope of a story, and it did it well. Whereas I think this movie is the first Transformers movie that's sort of going big, but doing it without that Michael Bay style and influence. And I was a little worried.
Well,
I
we'll
don't
see.
know. This
We'll
trailer
see how
didn't hit me.
that goes. Honestly, my big question is like, why do we really need another Transformers movie? And I'm guessing the answers, as usual, is money. But it's as with everything, I'm always asking, okay, so you're making this movie. Why now? Why this now? And also, it's my same question for the Last of Us trailer, which also dropped, which is like, people have been talking about The Last of Us being a video game that was groundbreaking because it was such a good story that even if you watched all of the cutscenes, you would have an appreciation for this wonderful story. To turn it into an HBO show feels redundant to me. I don't know if they're going to change any of the elements of the plot or of the world. We'll see.
It's a video game?
It was originally a video game that everybody played, and everybody, like, people watched playthroughs because it was such a good it was such a good story. And yes, this will cast the net wider beyond college students being like, hey, have you seen this game, to, you know, everybody with an HBO Max subscription. But, you know, I don't know. We'll see what they change, what they don't.
There is a big demand, by the way, for turning video games into movies and shows. And a lot of people have been sort of begging for this particular property because they believe that the story of the game is so ripe for adaptation.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because when this was out and I was talking to guys who were playing it and talking about it, the conversation back then was, movies are over, television is over, storytelling in the future is going to be all interactive. And
I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt said it. There was like a quote.
Did he say?
Interesting.
He was known.
So I mean, The Witcher is the same thing, right? Witcher was originally a game.
Was it?
Or was it a
Netflix?
What was it? Yeah, The Witcher on Netflix. Was
The Witcher is based on books turned into games. And then now I think
into a show.
The show is going mostly off the books, not the games, but the games were known before. Well, the games came out before the show did. So
okay, got it.
The thing is, since then, like, other games have really taken this led to games taking story a lot more seriously. But the thing is, I don't think, maybe audiences in 20 years will change. And that'll be back to our AI conversation. Like, flat media is going to be so easy to reproduce and make, you know, it'll be easy to just make shows and images that, in order to actually be entertained, we'll have to participate into it. I don't think that that's the case.
No,
I think people like to sit back and have a story told to them. That's
because
human.
always, yeah, I mean, that goes back to literally the Iliad and the Odyssey. It was originally an oral story that was eventually written down. Like storytelling has been around since the
forever.
dawn of
The
humans.
dawn of man. We had to entertain
literally
ourselves somehow.
the dawn of man. So yeah, I don't think that's true. I think that there's always going to be, because at a certain point, playing video games can be kind of exhausting, which is why I think so many people watch the video games. Like, I feel like everybody, not to refer to kids, but using it kind of like as a reasoning for it, kids love to play Roblox. What do kids love to play more than Roblox? Watching YouTube videos about Roblox. Like, I've seen it in every kid I've ever babysat, actually, in the last like 5 to 6 years. But I think that also goes into like, I mean, even humans. Like, I liked watching House of the Dragon, right? If that was a video game, I'd probably play it, and then I'd probably watch the recaps on YouTube.
If that were a video game, I'd probably die. That's the thing, you know. It's like I want to take in the art. Not everybody, and that's the thing. It's like generally humans like being told stories. You have to be a certain type of person to enjoy interfacing with a game and with a controller, and you know, it turns passive entertainment into active entertainment.
Yeah, that's exactly the difference. Yeah,
that's exactly why there will always be room for both, because they're two different things.
I agree.
I think so.
We're all in agreement here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they pull this off and if it's good. I hope they don't change too much, because people really do love that. And then there was another one. What else were we going to talk about?
There were a couple more, actually. There was the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny trailer.
Y'all, I had to Google how old he was, because I was like, wait, Harrison Ford's in another Indiana Jones movie?
And he says he's going to be the only person to ever be one, to be the Indiana Jones.
I mean, God bless, because I don't know if I could see another person in the Indiana Jones unless I see him hand over the reins to someone. Like, I think
he says he won't. He literally said he won't.
Low-key a savage, but also love it for him. He's like, no, this is mine, motherfucker. But no, I love it so much. But y'all, he is 80 years old filming these stunts. 80 years old.
He really has that get off my lawn vibe, and I do love that about him. I'm just like,
insane.
He wears it well. It's by the way, there was, I think the biggest thing coming over from the trailer was all like they show him de-aged in various different parts of his life. Like this probably looks like Indy from maybe the late 80s or early 90s, you know, maybe before Air Force One, but after the original trilogy of Indiana Jones
they
movies.
touch up the video feed a little bit. Like, even in the Remember, it looks more like a dream a little bit, or a memory, in the way that they sort of, it looks like they touch up the graphic.
Yeah, like here, like there's another one. I mean, this looks really good. I mean, the test with these is always like how they look in motion. So we'll see how they look in the real movie, and then the trailers usually have some level of unfinished VFX. So it will get better.
Break it down for us how that works in the future? I'd love to know.
That would be cool. Once we watch it, I would love to talk about it.
I mean, it's a. Can I tell you a really quick story about like how Disney went about basically becoming the best in the business at doing something like this?
Well, I mean, they were always doing graphic animation from the beginning.
Well, I'm referring to like face replacements and de-aging people specifically. So, you know, we were talking about AI earlier, and a big part of what AI has been known for in recent years is like doing deep fakes. And it became like, it's been like a big sensation on the internet, and it's accessible.
Deep fake is when you superimpose somebody's face onto a moving face, and so they can talk and move around with it. And I think this is what we saw in The Irishman with Robert De Niro de-aging himself. It was basically him deep faking his own younger face.
So it's a combination of different. So face replacements is one thing. So for example, in The Winter Soldier, you know, when the Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, she's kind of like swinging off the bridge that's about to get blown up, and then she just like lands on the ground and continues running. That shot and many other shots where you have a stunt performer doing the work, but then they shoot them. Usually stunt performers are meant to like hide their faces when they do stunts, and then they kind of do these swaps in camera shots. But nowadays what they do a lot of is they they just shoot you straight up, and then they replace the face of the stunt performer straight up with the face of the actor, and they're able to kind of motion track it so that it looks like, you know, the actor was doing the thing the whole time. And because the stunt performers are generally like their profile, like their physical profile is similar enough, you know, like it works. Like you could kind of,
But I
unless
didn't
you,
see that in like
it's,
the last 007 though, right? Because I see the actors doing and
sometimes the
practicing
actors do
while
that.
I'm
They
like,
usually mix it in, and sometimes the effect is done so well you don't notice it. Now, what's happening
okay.
here? So Disney. So there was this people out there. There was this one specific person who I don't remember the name of, who was doing such great deep fakes. He did a better version of Luke Skywalker at the end of the second season of The Mandalorian than what we got in the actual show. And
Wow.
Disney was like, come work for us, and they hired him. And so what
Yeah.
they're now doing is, in addition to doing, basically they train this algorithm on basically millions of hours. You just leave the like a computer server training this algorithm for literally millions of hours of real time, not real time, but like, you know, of training it to recognize Harrison Ford's face from basically every shot that he's ever put to film.
Wow.
Or like, you know, press tours on TV, stuff like that. And it trains you, especially the, you know, the original indie movies in this case, where that's what they're trying to emulate. And then they
That's
use
so
that
crazy.
to combination of a deep fake and face replacement, and then just the traditional de-aging tech, which is, you know, you actually go in and you create a 3D model of the character and make it as close to the real person as possible, and then you
And
apply the right textures. It's a
that's the thing
combination of all
about
those things
that's
that
the
they're
thing
doing
about
here.
what I've noticed about this AI stuff recently is like
Yeah.
it's pretty good at capturing the character of something and not just like
Like the
the
look.
The
facts,
face.
you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so there's something uncanny about it still, but if you feel something where you're like, yeah, this feels exactly like watching another movie, that's where this was actually what I was excited about. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I guess playing his daughter.
No, I think his
Goddaughter?
goddaughter. I think he
They
says
say that, but I can't
he's my
tell if they're
godfather.
bluffing in that scene.
It is this. It's the best part of the trailer. Is like he's like hey, we're not related. He's like, she's my goddaughter, and then he starts the whipping the whip around. Yeah, which was hilarious. And then the way that ends is so Indiana Jones, like the way that trailer ends, and that was the best part of the trailer for me.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, she's
this is
great.
the shot. This is like the kind, this reminded me at the, because I did not grow up at the indie movies. I'm not that old. So I first discovered that style of movies with the Pirates of the Caribbean films, especially the first couple.
Yeah.
And then, you know, discovering Indiana Jones and being like, this is where that style came from, that whole Jack Sparrow kind of a character who just kind of gets himself into trouble and is way over his head, but then somehow finds his ingenuity, you know, with this ingenuity, finds their way out of the situation. That comes
I
from
would
Indiana
consider,
Jones.
Indiana Jones a mix between like the original like 007 movies, the original James Bond movies, and like Pirates of the Caribbean. That's sort of like that Westerner.
Yeah,
it's like the old Western.
He is sort of the middle ground between James Bond and cowboys.
Yeah.
Yep.
We love it. Love to see it.
And the last of the big trailers from the weekend is the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now the holiday special just came out. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's insanely good.
I haven't seen it,
I'm just gonna say this outright. I don't care. I don't care.
Really? They revealed that this is a spoiler warning. They revealed that Nebula is the half sister of Peter Quill, and that scene at the end of the whole thing was, I thought it was really heartwarming. Okay, wow. Yawns, literal yawns.
I'm laughing.
Oh, you're laughing.
Oh my God.
Okay.
It's so funny. He was like, I don't care.
That wasn't me yawning. That was me doing a big over-exaggerated gasp, if you couldn't tell.
So funny.
I literally do not care. I could give you a yawn if you like.
Wow. That's gonna be me in today's review. Like
the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie is, I think, still a top 3, top 5 Marvel movie from the MCU. So
well, there isn't much to beat these days.
No, I know. But like, and the second one wasn't nearly as good, but like that part of the end where Yondu is like ego may have been your father, but I was your daddy. And then like, he's basically like sacrifices himself to save the rest of them. And he's like, and then there's a funny thing about like, they mentioned this early in the movie about Mary Poppins, like, because Peter Quill loves his Earth references. And then he's like flying away.
I
And he's
feel
like, I'm
like
Mary
I
Poppins,
need
y'all.
a meme
I love
of Andrew rolling his eyes the way he just did. I'm gonna need to see that over and over and over again. Is there a way that we can just like, I think we should make a GIF for the
We'll
show
have to set up a special
out of
taping.
that.
Yeah,
With,
we
like,
could totally, yeah. We record these things, so we'll find it. This trailer, by the way, I think is at least that's the speculation is they're teasing that at least one, if not several, of these Guardians are gonna die in this movie, and
Thank God.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm ready to watch.
I think
like
even I
Peter
would be a
Quill.
little bit sad. Yeah.
That's
Damn.
no,
Andrew just doesn't care. He just
Marvel
doesn't care.
really lost me.
Oh man. I don't know.
A long time ago, but like they haven't been gaining any points lately.
Marvel does a good job, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy, like talking about creating likable characters. Like it goes into the algorithm. And I think so many people are formatted in a way to emotionally connect to the Marvel movies. Like I am sad. I was so sad when Tony Stark died. It made me sad when Captain America sort of handed over the shield and retired. Like those things, because even though I haven't seen all of the movies, like it builds you up to like these characters because although they do have character arcs, they are likable characters. And so the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like they're all likable characters. Like I was so sad when Groot died, and then Groot came back to life, and I was so excited. I was like, "Baby
Groot!"
Like,
"We are Groot!" And then
Groot.
By the way, that line, "We are Groot," he said it in that first movie when he's sacrificing himself, like to save everybody.
Yeah.
And then in this movie trailer, they showed like for the first time since that first movie, we get the line, "We are Groot," because the whole thing is he only says, "I am Groot." So for him to like the one time he says something different, it's meant to be meaningful. And I think they did it right in the first movie, and I'm hoping they do that here. They're also introducing new characters like Adam Warlock. Like, what's the name of this actor?
I cannot stand this actor. Oh, I pointed the wrong direction, but I can't stand him. He drives me nuts. Talk about Chronicles of Narnia. He first started, he was the like really annoying Edgar was his name. Edmund. God,
you're talking about Will Poulter, right? That's the name of this actor, Will Poulter.
Yeah, this dude, I can't stand. I keep pointing in the wrong direction, y'all.
It's the other way.
I can't stand it.
Yes.
I cannot stand him. He drives me nuts.
Why?
And honestly, his face is annoying.
That's
his face is annoying. The way he acts, I find annoying. Honestly, he really lost me in Chronicles of Narnia, and since then I can just never unsee it.
He lost you like 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I'm not that old, okay?
Well, part of the reason why this is kind of interesting is because James Gunn said this is the last time we're going to see this iteration of Guardians. And in the comics, that roster on that team kind of evolves and changes over time like the Avengers. So, I mean, and then they showed this like flashback to young Rocket before I guess he was experimented on. And this is the scene where Groot says, "We are Groot." And so there's a lot of hints at we might see some of these characters die. I mean, and you see these kind of shots where Nebula is crying. And then, by the way, Peter Quill just looks miserable almost throughout the entire trailer. Rocket, that looks cute, like the throwback young Rocket. And then they showed this. This is a comic reference. This is a version of like Earth that was built by, I think, like forget the name. It was like some kind of cosmic entity in the comics who creates this Earth-like planet, which everything looks like Earth except everybody looks not like a human. So and then like this trailer starts with Drax taking a basketball and hitting this little girl in the face, and then Peter's like, "What the hell, man?" I'm like, that was like, okay, James Gunn. This is a James Gunn movie. He's now at DC. He's basically the Kevin Feige of DC, but this is his last project with Marvel, at least for a while. And literally when they introduced this at Comic-Con like last year or the year before that, whenever the last in-person Comic-Con was, I don't think it was not the one this year. Like literally, like Chris Pratt and James Gunn kind of hugged on stage, and they were like, they actually cried like a little bit because
Oh,
these
wow,
guys have
yeah.
been working on these movies now for the better part of a decade, and they
Yeah.
really, in a lot of ways, this made James Gunn go mainstream as a director, as a filmmaker, as a creator. It gave Chris Pratt a career in cinema beyond what he was doing in television. It gave Dave Bautista a career that has spawned into roles with James Bond and other franchises that he's now a part of.
And he was like a wrestler, right? Before
He
that?
was a wrestler. I mean, but like,
Yeah.
transitioning to Hollywood isn't always smooth. There's a lot of wrestlers that have
Yeah.
tried and failed, and the ones who succeed are the exceptions to the rule. And
Yeah.
he became, somebody that people were willing to cast and actively seeking out. And he got some of his own star vehicles as a result of the Guardians franchise. I actually love his deadpan humor of Drax. I would be sad if Drax were to die, but I just hope if he does die that he goes out in the blaze of glory with some insanely funny deadpan humor lines. But that was I mean, this is it. Did you guys have a favorite of any of these? I mean, there was like 5 trailers, and I guess 6 if you count Super Mario Bros.
Yeah,
And-
I think Indiana Jones is a winner for me. I'm super excited for that. It's been too long. It's been a long time since the last one. So I think that's just going to garner in general like a lot of love.
And I actually have more optimism for this latest sequel, because the last one they let a lot of people down. People don't like that 4th one.
Yeah, and then a lot has
say
happened
that.
since the last Guardians movie, because we had the Avengers move, the Infinity War Endgame, and then so many years. I mean, James Gunn got fired and then rehired by Disney in between. So there's a lot.
What's with Disney in this recasting situation? I'm like, y'all, they're just shifting around business people like left and right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a lot of weird changes for them. Maybe we'll talk about that on another day. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, do all the stuff on all the things, because we are on all of the things. And in the meantime, I think now we're taking a look at what? I don't know. I completely lost track.
DDLJ.
We are taking a slight detour and playing a quick game. So are you guys ready to play the game?
Love games. Let's go.
Okay. Let me explain the concept. Here's the concept.
All right.
Autocorrect movie titles. These names I'm going to give you on screen. You're going to see the name of the movie. It's sort of right, except that it's not. It's almost as if, when you type something into your phone and then the autocorrect feature takes over and then randomly changes it to something that is completely out of context, but for some reason the AI thought it was right. And
this is our AI episode, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of fits. So I figured let's apply that concept here. So here's what's going to happen. Here's the scoring system, right? So I'm not playing because I am hosting. But Angelina and Andrew, you guys are going to be the competitors. We're going to have 3 rounds. So I'm going to ask each of you, I'm going to give each of you a movie title to guess. And I'll give you the auto-corrected version. You will need to then guess the right version of the name of the movie. And for getting it right, you get 3 points. For getting it wrong, you get -2 points. And then
I don't like the negative points.
But this is spice it up a little bit. So
and if I don't guess, can I pass if I don't know?
Yeah, you're taking the SAT approach to this. Wrong answers.
Yeah, it's like
skip the.
So you could choose to pass, or you could choose to answer it. Now, if you choose to pass or you answer it wrong, the other person can steal, and then the same scoring rules apply. So do be careful that if you want to steal and you get it wrong, you will still get -2 points. Or if you get it right, you get 3. So if you guys are ready, we can get started.
We can pass on all of them and just
get 0 and hope the other person is negative and win. That is a strategy. So let's start off again. 3 rounds. So I'll ask each of you give you each of you 3 different titles, and then we'll take it from there. So here we go. The first one is for Angelina. So and then you'll both see the name, and then Andrew, you can choose to steal if you like. So here's the first autocorrected movie title: Lake Placid.
I'm gonna pass on this one, y'all. I don't know.
Andrew?
Lake Placid? I don't know.
What? Sorry, can you say that again?
Lake Placid?
Lake Placid. Are you gonna lock that in?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna lock that in?
That is correct. That is correct.
Look at that. Look at
I
that.
was like, what in the hell is that? Is this a movie?
I guess it sounds
these are-
familiar. It's in there
That's
somewhere.
what it says. Yeah, it's a movie. Lake Placid is a movie. So
Okay.
Andrew now has 3 points.
All
And
right.
that wasn't even a question that
Good job,
he was
Andrew.
meant to answer.
So now it's my turn.
Yes,
Yep,
now it's your
go for
turn.
it.
So I'm gonna give you a name, and then you have to answer that, or tell me like what it actually is for real. So
Okay.
let me see if I get the spelling right. I'm copying these over from my notes. Yep, I got it. Okay, here we go, Andrew. So here's yours. The Tabnam.
The tab name?
Can I steal
Okay. Is it the Batman?
it?
Are you 100% sure?
Now
Yes,
I am.
that is correct. That is
Yeah.
correct.
I was
Um,
like, really?
yep.
You don't know that?
So the score now stands at 6. We're through the first
All right.
round, so now it's time for round
Fine.
2. Let's
I'm not a good
see.
loser, so I gotta pep it up.
Yeah,
Don't lose.
This one's gonna be a little difficult. I'll say that. We're gonna up the ante as we go along here.
Okay.
So here we go. This one is for Angelina. The Vamsheet of Imidarin. What do you think that was autocorrected from?
I don't know. I might be the most boring player. I have literally no idea. Remember when we talked about how I'm really bad with names? This is
Are
the
you trying to
worst game
cheat,
I could be
Andrew?
playing.
Are you trying to cheat?
It's what it looks like. No cheating.
Don't look away. Because are you gonna try to steal this by cheating? Is this how?
I know what it
God.
is. I just don't know what the last word is.
So Angelina, I'll give you 5 seconds. If you yay or nay, you're gonna answer. You're
I
gonna pass.
pass. I'm sorry.
Okay, Andrew.
It's the Banshee of.
So are you stealing? Are you gonna make the attempt?
Yeah,
to
I'm
steal?
trying to.
Okay.
It's the Banshee of something imitiran. I don't know.
Is that a?
Because the
is that
last
an answer?
I don't know if the last one's even a word.
So
It's the
he
Banshee
lost?
of something.
Are
So he
we gonna go with the
The wrong
Banshee of
answer.
something? Yes. Yeah. No.
No. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Okay. We're running. Gonna have to count you down here. All right. Here we go.
It came out
5.
this year, right?
Yes, it's a movie that is. I might still be playing in theaters actually.
We get clues now?
Imishirin. Banshee of Imishirin. That's what I think it
Inisherin.
is. Is that right? Is that right?
The answer is the Banshees of Inisherin. You were off by 1 alphabet.
Wow, you're so close.
You were off by 1 alphabet nonetheless. Therefore,
Good.
you had 2 points taken away from you, and now you've been down from 6 points to 4. So we're getting a little. Angelina might have a chance to catch up here.
I don't know, yeah. Let's see.
But
I didn't
she's
think
got
I
an uphill
cared.
battle. She's in
But
an
now
uphill
you
battle
s-
because this next one is actually a Bollywood movie, but it's one that I figured was fair game. And this question is round 2, second question for Andrew. So Andrew,
Okay.
dang dang.
Oh
What is-
yeah. This is Bang Bang.
Why does he get all the easy ones? I could have guessed that
are these
too.
easy?
Yeah, the Batman, Bang Bang. Like I get the Banshee of Inisherin. What is
Inishirin.
that?
It's
Correct.
Inishirin.
All right.
That is
Learned the hard
correct.
way.
I'm trust me, I'm not trying to make this I'm trying to play the parody game here. Now, having said that, 7 points. I guess there's still maybe a way that this can go. I don't know if that means maybe Andrew already won this. Who knows?
Give
All
her
right,
another
let's
hard
speed it
one.
up, guys. Let's go.
Give her
Yeah.
another hard one.
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna give you one that's a little easier. So Angelina, this is the last round, round 3, and here's your autocorrected movie title: Shaving Pirate Brian.
Saving Private Ryan. Log it in.
Are you 100%
That's
sure
not
about
one
that?
that autocorrect
Saving
came up with.
Private Ryan? Yeah, like that's a great movie.
So, okay, that's correct. That is correct. You're right. I do like the shaving pirate Brian. I wonder what kind of
I was
autocorrect
like,
that was.
Sounds like a dirty movie.
yeah, it was like that's like the porn parody of Saving Private Ryan. That's what that sounds
So
like.
here are the scores.
All right, at least I have 3.
We're at 3 and 7.
I couldn't have lost with 0. That's just really bad.
Well, who knows? You might lose another.
Gotta get in there a little bit. Okay.
You might get something wrong by 1 letter.
It's true.
That was kind of sad. You were so close, and you thought about it so
far
hard.
Away.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is the last one. This is basically the last question of the game, and it looks like Andrew already has this thing wrapped up. But let's see if he can pad his lead. So round 3, question number 3 for Andrew. Age Van Gura. What is
that? Would be Ace Ventura.
Are you 100% certain that's the right
I mean, it's autocorrect, so it literally could be something completely different, like The Mask, but no, it's because I've had autocorrect be really dumb before, but I'm pretty sure this is Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura, you are correct there, sir. And
look at that.
All right, Andrew.
Thank you.
You get bragging rights.
Is that all I get? What do I win?
Yeah.
What did I win?
For the time being, just bragging rights. You will,
nothing. You win nothing.
Take them.
If you guys like the game, you want to do this more often, maybe we'll play for real prizes next time. But
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
3 to
I'll
10.
catch up on my my movie lists so that I'm maybe on Andrew's level next time. A good competitor.
Maybe. Ace Ventura didn't come out this year. That's it?
That's the autocorrect movie titles. There were some names were sort of right, and you had to guess the right movie title.
I'm going to exercise my bragging rights and just say, whew, how's it feel to be a
I
loser?
think next time we should have a timer. Like, you have 5 seconds to time it. I think that'll add some to the game.
I don't know.
Andrew took like a minute to answer the Banshees of Inisherin and still got it wrong.
I was like, what?
Thank you. Yes.
Exactly.
I did win the
5
game.
seconds.
This doesn't feel like a victory when you say it like that. If you enjoyed this game, let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll do some more, because it's really not a matter of whether or not I like it. It's whether or not you care or want to watch this. So let us know. Interact with us a little bit and tell us what other things you'd like to see us do. We're big clowns and we do things for your entertainment. That's the point. Now we, on a more somber note, we wanted to send Jason David Frank off with a real tribute, because we got to talk about him as we were getting the news of his death, but we thought we'd put a little bit more thought and care into a message about him. So please enjoy our tribute to Jason David Frank.
Redemption is not a word often used by children. But through the eyes of the teenager born into evil, who made the choice to serve in the fight for good. It is a concept every viewer of a quintessential 90s show understood. But the story of an artificially created green spy's transformation into the golden armored leader of the Power Rangers isn't just a story of redemption. It is the story of how an audience could see so much good in a person that the writers of the show would change their plans to kill off another villain of the week to make a legend of Jason David Frank. The popularity of Tommy Oliver, who changed through the decades from green to white to all shades of red, made his name synonymous with Power Rangers, whose reappearances turned his fans back into children in spite of years gone by. Tommy was a leader.
We're here to fight by your side.
And a person with a dark past who had dedicated his life to being a hero. As a result, Frank came to represent the same.
Nah, that's impossible.
Hey, anything's possible.
Beyond a lovable character, he was a real fighter, accomplished in 10 styles of martial arts, one of which was a blend of his own creation, making him a natural champion in the world of MMA. In the wake of his loss, we might repeat our first reaction to the troubled Green Ranger, looking past whatever evils plagued him, in order to see the boundless good he was capable of.
Well, I'm not going to try and say it out loud. We watched DDLJ, and yeah, but the latest in our Bollywood Virgins series. I'll be honest with you. After watching enough of these, I think I'm kind of getting a thing for Indian chicks. There's some pretty girls in these things, but
she is very pretty. I will say that very pretty. Both
if you
both
haven't,
of them.
Yeah, if you haven't watched a lot
peak
of
their powers, you know.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched a lot of or any Bollywood movies, beware, you will become very attracted to Indian beauty. It happened. It's happening. Look at that. Wow.
That's a terrible shot of her. Her eyes like halfway closed. But she's very pretty.
I'm into it.
I mean, these were shot on film, right? So like you don't know
Yeah.
what you have until you look at the daily. So there was a different process of how you go about making movies than a lot of movies today.
She's not even my favorite. I'm just noticing like
Preeti was really pretty.
all of
Preeti.
all of these.
Were you talking about her
screenings I've just
sister?
No, I'm just
not her sister, her betrothed sister, Preeti. That was her name, right?
Or sister-in-law, I guess you would call her that.
I mean,
right?
they didn't get married, but like,
yeah.
Or
It's like
sister.
essentially, yeah, she was really pretty too.
Yes, I do remember.
So-
I think I know the person. Isn't she the one in the song that's on the rooftop, and she's sort of the one dancing in that? Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
So
This was our sort of a love story for us. It's one of the most popular, successful movies of Bollywood history. Is that right?
that is right. Fun fact. I mean, Angelina, you actually read the article about this earlier. How do you feel about the fact that that article was published in November 2020 when the theaters were first opening after the initial wave of the pandemic, and already at that time when the theaters had closed down earlier in 2020, DDLJ, Dilwale, Dulhania Le Jayenge, which basically translates to the brave-hearted will take the bride.
Can you say that one
movie
more
had been-
time?
Huh?
Can you say that again?
The
I haven't actually
brave,
heard that name out loud.
the brave. Oh, the name of the movie or the English translation?
Yeah. No, the name of the movie.
Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge.
Oh yeah, I'd never actually gotten
One of the
to hear
songs
name
in
of
the movie
out loud. I
is-
was like, wow.
The name of the movie. So if I don't know how, if
okay.
you listen to the song, it's there's a titular song in the movie. But yeah, there's this theater called Marathi Mandir, which basically stands for Marathi. Mandir is like a temple. That's what that translates to. Marathi is like a language, and then but the theater is in Mumbai, which is where Bollywood is based. That theater has been playing this movie since it came out in October 20th, I think, 1995, which I did the math is exactly
Literally,
9.
it's on like a.
I was gonna say
How much?
this movie came out exactly 9.5 months after I was born. I was born on January 5th,
Wow.
1995.
That's crazy.
And this movie came out October 20th. So like as long as I've been alive,
so
basically
funny.
this movie has been around.
You've been
But this
watching
movie
movie.
in late 2020, when it was first starting to play again after those theaters reopened from the pandemic shutdowns, it had already played consecutively like for 1,274 something weeks in
It
theaters.
was 1,247 weeks. And it's the first show. They said in the article that it's the first show that they play as the first matinee showing every day, and they're going to continue with the tradition. The only reason they shut down and stopped that said tradition was because of COVID, and it was unsafe, and so they had to shut down the theaters. But the second they reopened, it was the first show they show every single day they're open.
Wow.
And it's still
Crazy.
playing.
Yeah.
And they've done these
Yeah,
special
it's still
events
going.
like when it crossed 700 weeks, when it crossed 1,000 weeks, and then Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol would show up and they do this special like almost red carpet event, and then like thousands of people gather on the streets, and then they're they commemorate it with some kind of special ceremony of some kind, or like they released a coffee a table book at the 700th anniversary, I think. There's all kinds of like literature written about what this movie means for cinema and like critiquing how it influenced Bollywood over time. But just the fact, I mean, it's kind of like the closest comparison to this in Hollywood would be the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which still plays in a lot of theaters. I don't know if it's consecutive weeks, but for 26, it's still playing. You can go to Marathi. If you go to Mumbai, you can go to that theater and catch that showing even to this day. That's insane to think about, right?
In a way where I try not to be disrespectful, as I've been coined before, I can see where this movie did a lot for the culture. They speak to a lot as like sort of women being expected to do this certain thing within Indian culture. Obviously, arranged marriages was a huge part and still is. I think today, Daniel, I could be wrong, but it's still today very prominent, which is crazy to sort of the
there
Western
is less
world.
of a stigma around it in the sense that back then it was more like forced onto kids and women and men in general, but like women especially.
But it's still like a cultural norm to a certain part, which for me sounds absolutely crazy, but that's because I grew up in a Western world where like my mom came from Europe, and I grew up thinking like, you have no say in who I marry, lady. I have my own autonomy. But that's not bred and like born in the culture. So I can see how this movie really speaks to sort of paramount choices for a character, like getting to choose who she loves, but still wanting to do right by her family. But overall, this movie was so terrible, like awful. The fight scene, the movie, the music, I'm just like, I don't understand the cult following of this movie unless it's about all of the cultural stuff, because as a movie overall, wow. I literally watched this with a friend and we kept looking at each other and said, make it make sense. At some point, talking about VFX, there's this light on the roof specifically. There's this light. It almost looks like an alien UFO. And then it would flash in and out. And we were like, oh my God, it's gone. It's back. It's gone.
They shot a lot of that was shot in a studio, like a soundstage. You could clearly tell it is.
I guarantee you,
and
it was like a reflection or something. Yeah. So there are mistakes made with stunts. Like he fell over, but that dude hadn't even hit him yet. Like it's so bad.
The stunt work, I'll be honest with you, like this movie is not known for that third act action sequence, which is barely an action sequence. And I don't think it held up even when the movie came out. But people don't really remember that. What people remember is the scene where, Simran's running to catch Raj as he's extending his hand on the train. That scene, that particular sequence became so iconic and so symbolic for like that break from
there
tradition.
Was an opening on the train right next to her that she could have jumped into without running like an idiot. Like, what? Like, that's how trains work. They're connected on the inside. So I was just like, wow, they built all of this up for the train scene, but honestly, like, they shouldn't have shown the open door right next to her. Like, that's just a big directorial, like, flop.
I think the idea is you're thinking more about the sentiment of that rather than the logic of it.
But
it's the whole thing of
so hard for me to surpass that because the logic of the way the movie was made just doesn't make sense.
Didn't I told you guys this last week, and I think we kind of went in a different direction than what I intended. But when I said this movie very much is like a Romeo and Juliet story, I meant it more like not only thematically, like it follows a lot of the same like plot devices, like with these two people from two very different cultural backgrounds, even though they're both technically Indian. One of them lives in London and is very like different than the other. Like they're both actually technically from London, but one of them is this very traditional, like conservative background. The other one much more liberal, like westernized culture background, if you want to call it that. And then the father of the daughter like does not want them to get together, and that's like the big antagonistic force. Yeah. Nobody really dies at the end of this movie, so it's not the tragedy. But that's kind of what I meant. Not only that, but also the cultural value, and also from a storytelling standpoint, this movie set really not only a tradition, but like this pattern where a lot of these other movies tried to follow this like way of storytelling to the point that when you watch Romeo and Juliet for the first time today, and you've seen all these other movies that are sort of like following the story structure that Romeo and Juliet set at the beginning with Shakespeare, you're like, I've seen this before. This is not what is so original and great about Romeo and Juliet. That's
I
some
mean,
of what you could perceive.
that's been
DDLJ.
so many iterations of Romeo and Juliet, right? Like I can totally see that, but we've seen that
It's so
time and time again.
No. You're not gonna tell me that Shakespeare doesn't hold up. Shakespeare's a classic. Shakespeare is Shakespeare. And it's not, if you are looking at it in terms of just the love story between Romeo and Juliet, that is so superficial and doesn't take into account all of the work he put into building the world and all of the characters with different subplots, the things that you could read into every character, every line. Don't tell me that Shakespeare is just people are repeating Shakespeare. Nobody is repeating Shakespeare.
They all are. They've used that because that's an archetype now. Like Shakespeare has its own it's
archetype.
He has created an archetype that people then go on to reiterate.
They're reiterating it, and they're
Titanic
scanning
is Romeo and Juliet. In fact,
scanning,
Jack dies in the end.
They're scanning for the most superficial reading of it and putting that into different contexts. No, nobody is repeating Shakespeare.
So you would argue that this isn't a Shakespearean-based story?
Actually, no, because like you said, it's not a tragedy. The worlds aren't that different. The other characters, totally minor, and there's really, Shakespeare would often set up different plots throughout, subplots that you could focus on and different peripheral stories that didn't necessarily have to do with the plot itself, but there was more richness to all of it because the characters were constructed for a reason, or these, like the guys that are fighting, it's just like, it was like a kung fu film where it's just like a bunch of people that are just there for some action.
And then also it was really weird where he was like getting the absolute crap beat out of him, and then all of a sudden, because they hit the dad, like I like the idea of that he would try, but like, number one, that is massively disrespectful in general to like bring an elder into it, which I think is kind of the whole point, is that these people are like wildly like lacking in heart and character in order to be beating up on like a father. I mean, that's just insane to me. But also, there's no reality to that because he's getting the little crap beat out of him, and now all of a sudden he's a kung fu star. There's just a lot of like parts about Raj's character that I just could not understand and I could not get with. Like he is massively.
Can I just point?
Yeah,
I don't want to point out something. So that particular moment, I think the way it was meant to be seen is that he's not fighting. He's always been able to. I think the idea was his character could have fought back and won the battle at any point in time. He's sort of at that point, his character was so disheartened and he didn't want to. He almost was like because I realized this, that I've seen this movie so many times. So this is something that growing up, obviously you don't catch a lot of the subtext until you are a certain age in any movie. But throughout this movie, the main character Raj is trying to get the respect of his dad, and one of his goals, or the main goal, is he doesn't want to elope with Simran. He wants Simran's dad to kind of be agreeable to their marriage, and so it's all about earning his respect and his approval. And that fight, he doesn't fight back until he feels like there is absolutely no way for him to earn that from his father anymore. And if I remember correctly, it was also something to do with his father being not his father, his father actually does show up, right? But also Simran's father, being there, and I think until he gets to the point where his own father gets hit, that he strikes back. But until then, he's happy to take a beating because he wants to earn the respect of Simran's father, not elope with Simran. I don't know if I'm addressing what you were talking about. But
I disagree with that because it definitely shows that the clear motivator for that is he does not fight back until they hit his father, and then it's an immediate fight back. So I think you are reading more into that then there
No,
is,
what I'm
because
saying
to
is
me,
he intentionally was taking a beating and not fighting back, not just like he then became an MMA star overnight, like in the like split second. I think the idea is he always could fight back. He just chose not to until like the point of like until his own father got hit. So the point fighting back was not against Simran's father's wishes or like going against him. It was more about protecting his own father. I think like the motivation there changes, like in the scene. You see what I mean? Like that's it
Mhm.
pivots. Like that's
yeah,
how
no, I
I've
mean, I
sort
get
of
what you're saying. Yeah, and I definitely agree with you about the storyline of like the whole sort of shift at one point is that he could elope with her. She wants to elope, but he wants to gain that respect, which I think is the only likable thing about this dude's character. At no point in the first half of the movie do I think he's likable truly to any extent.
This wasn't his most likable role.
He is so annoying.
Oh,
His
I think
character
most
is
I know what you're
so
saying, but
annoying.
most Indian audiences would so disagree with you.
Fine.
Well,
why?
Miss Marvel
Is that like a
doesn't because
weird
Miss Marvel
cultural
likes
thing?
Bazigar more, but I don't know. Yeah.
Like, what about that? Like, I don't get what is likable culturally
No,
or societal about
I
his
will say this
character.
if you look at it objectively, if you look at it like from a writing standpoint,
I'm like
yes,
folded my hands. I'm ready for this.
right. Raj, okay, this was a trend in the 90s, especially with Shah Rukh Khan movies, where he used to play these characters that had this certain sense of toxic masculinity, and which I think culturally today, if you made this movie, the characterization of Raj would be different. It would be different because he's not as likable of a character by like the standards of filmmaking in general,
I
but
don't think
also
that's the issue at all.
Yeah, he's
that's
annoying.
part of.
He's like a little kid.
By the way, here's an interesting tidbit. There's this like
Yeah.
really famous line in the movie where he's like, "Bade bade deshon mein choti choti baatein hoti rehti hain." They can like, which basically translates to in big countries like these kind of things happen, which is something that actually Barack Obama once upon a time quoted at an event that he was at. I don't know if it was in front of a lot of Indian audiences or something, but this movie like holds like there's a lot of like it's a quotable film. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. Andrew, you were going to say something
I
about
don't
Raj.
get the why. Like, make it make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
Honestly, yeah, this was not my favorite one to watch. Interestingly, I'd read that this wasn't the original vision of the movie.
So the context of this is the musical. So so start there. Like where you read this in a Variety article, right? So what is this in reference to? This is the director of the movie saying this, if I remember correctly. Right?
So his original idea was to have this be a clash of cultures as an American movie. This wasn't originally going to be a Bollywood film. It just happened that that's how it turned out. So the idea was to have it be an American and an Indian woman fall in love. And the culture clash would be a lot stronger because, like you said yourself, if you had to be, if you had your marriage arranged for you, that's just not how the West works. It would be kind of crazy for you.
Yeah.
So that already hit me more like what you said as a Romeo and Juliet type of story, because you can actually see a bigger culture clash here. There wasn't too much of a contrast between their worlds, in my view. And so, yes, as you mentioned, this is in the context of the idea that they're going to sort of revivify that old version of this as a Broadway musical. And it's honestly, I think that's a good call because the similarities between Broadway musicals and Bollywood are very striking. And this is something that, it's light enough that it could be just sort of a fun jukebox kind of musical. The music could be
already
really
the music
interesting
there for it. Yeah.
Well,
so,
I think they would rewrite it. Because the plot changes a lot.
Yeah, but I do think the basis for it is already sort of there within not only the audience, but just the movie itself is like based off of like a musical form.
Yeah.
It's by the way, This article is from a couple of years ago. Just to, actually no, it's from last
Oh,
year.
is it out yet?
So
Oh,
it's
okay.
they were playing until October 23rd. They played from September 1st to October 23rd at a theater, I think the Old Box Theater or something in San Diego. It was like and I think now I read on a New York tickets, but something where you can get theater tickets for New York theaters, that they are
Okay, I was
meant
gonna
to
say,
at some
I was
point in
like,
the
coming from a musical standpoint,
yeah
opening in San Diego versus opening in New York is a bad sign. That
yeah
means they didn't have the money or the backing on any real level to open in New York.
yeah. They're
That's
meant
not.
to they're meant to open in New York soon. It's right now the ticket's not on sale, but it's coming soon apparently.
I'd be
But
curious to know whether or not they were workshopping
yeah,
it in New York, and then backing, like financial backing fell out or something, and so they couldn't afford to rent out a theater in New York. I'd be interested to
possibly.
know about the basis of that, but like that's a bad
I don't know about the
sign.
financial back. It did kind of strike me that it was going to open in San Diego, or it did open in San Diego first. But as I was going through and cross-referencing various articles talking about it, what I found out was that initially some of the articles, especially about the original run it looked like in San Diego, it was talking about the story being two Indian Americans, one of whom comes from like I think Brooklyn or New York somewhere within New York City, and has a very like liberal, like open, like westernized, again quote unquote westernized upbringing, and then the girl is from Chicago, and her family is very traditional, old school Indian conservative, but they were both
Yeah.
Indian American characters living in the U.S. And then
And
the blurb I was reading about from the New York site talked about one character being specifically American and the other one being in like an Indian American girl, like, and then the boy being American. So maybe they changed and evolved it a little bit. There were also some criticisms from some critics, like Indian actors and voice actors, stuff like that, who were talking about how why can't they just because they were pointing to the original movie and saying, if you're adapting it, why don't you keep it the way it was? We need more representation of Indian characters and actors on stage and on camera,
Well, let
rather
me push
than
back there,
changing it.
because if you did have an American lead in that, in an otherwise
Yeah,
Indian cast, wouldn't that sort of serve as the entrance point for Americans to watch it?
I do. I actually I
yeah,
think I'm
it'd
on the
make it
camp
more
with you,
wildly marketable.
because
Yeah, that
Aditya
makes more
Chopra,
sense.
who's on screen here, he's the director of this movie, and this was, by the way, his first movie. I found out, DDLJ. So, and he always planned to kind of like make a couple of Bollywood movies and then move on to Hollywood. He mentions that he would have loved to have Tom Cruise play the role instead of Shah Rukh Khan. He was the brother of Yash Chopra, who was a producer of the movie, and he was like a big legendary producer. He's passed away. Aditya Chopra is the younger brother. Anyway, but the point being, I think the story sort of evolved over time, and so it's changed. And I do agree that I think the contrast would have been better, because the original premise is stronger if the one character if they're not both Indian and just come
Yeah,
from
I think
different.
it leads to
Yeah,
a more because forgive me, just based off the ignorance, she's pretty like Hindu, right?
she's from like
She's Hindu
Punjab. I don't know if they specify if she's Hindu or if she's Sikh. Like, I actually don't remember, honestly.
because you see her praying quite a bit, and I just thought of her as being like very conservative
Mhm.
Hindu, but I wasn't sure if that was accurate or not. And it definitely
Yeah.
shows that he's like more of a like more westernized, but I don't know. I think the character conflicts there are just not enough, and I don't think that his character himself has enough redeemable facets. Like, she kind of like falls in love with him when they get drunk and he doesn't sleep with her, and I was like, so we call that rape nowadays. So like, I'm so happy he didn't rape you. Like, great, but like, I
Yeah.
don't think that's a basis for falling in love with him. But like, so it's just the way they did it was like,
It was more, it played
no,
out more like
no.
she fell in love with this person who was everything that she kind of dreamt of, like the life she dreamt of living, he lives. And so she kind of
Yeah.
romanticized, and that's why she liked him so much. Whereas I think the back half of the movie is intended to kind of show that Raj also has this other side to him, which I don't know
But
how
the
well
thing
it
is,
comes across.
we don't see that until all of a sudden it's like wow, he just got really mature all of a sudden. That's interesting. Like he has these little like mature
There is like a
blurbs
flip the
of
switch moment when he
rhetoric.
shows up in India.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
you know, I won't
But we don't see any of
fault
that
him for
before.
that, because maybe what you're seeing is, you know, somebody's growth arc, and growth isn't, you know, as we see in movies, this like
Linear.
gradual but steady
Yeah.
upward curve. Sometimes it really is, you know, you're growing up and you're making sense of things, and the things that you were doing, these childish things that were working for some time, suddenly don't, and you feel this emptiness, and you're like, why do I feel empty all of a sudden? I'm doing everything I've always done. And so then you try those things. I won't Shah Rukh Khan, he's a good actor, and I think that if that happened, you could fault it to editing or directing or whatever, but I do think there's some authenticity to bursts of maturity and bursts of immaturity, especially right out of college, which he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Overall, it's like I want to root for them. I'm never walking into a movie like I want to hate this movie. It's not that I hate it, but I definitely do not like it. That
You wouldn't
scene
be at the
was
Daily
weird.
Matinee for this.
No,
I
make it
did
make
like the
sense.
locales. I mean, they
Right.
shot a lot of this movie in Switzerland. They shot parts of it in London, and then they shot
do
parts
actually
of it in
talk
India.
about that, how a big draw of the movie was like all of the different places that this was shot. And
Yeah.
again, like I can see how I can see how the growth arcs, especially for Simran and like what she wants, but also like wanting to honor her father. Like I think her character was more authentic and more believable, and just overall like a great character. I had an issue with Raju's character the whole movie.
But again, I think this is a story not so much about the clashing cultures, because again,
Yeah.
he's always saying, I want to do the Indian thing. I'm an Indian man. I don't, he tries to be as respectful as he can through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think this really is a clash of the maturity gap that exists in men and women, no matter what culture you're from.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
that
but he's just so immature. Like
But-
he's so
but that's the thing. It's about him
yeah.
trying to figure out who he's going to be now that he doesn't have to be a student. I don't know.
She is really pretty though, y'all.
Oh yeah.
She's very pretty.
Maybe, I don't know. It could be that this is just, you're a woman, your experience is different, but I'm sure you've met plenty of annoying men who are your same age.
Yeah, I don't fall in love with them. I
Right?
tell them
Okay.
to go F
That's-
off. So
That's you. But
it's true.
you know, this is two people growing up, her sort of trying to explore you know, life outside of the control of her family.
Yeah.
And she gets a little taste of that freedom. And that's the thing. It's not two people experiencing the same moment in their life. It's two people having completely different experiences that are coinciding, and deciding that they like that about each other, and they
Yeah.
want to make their lives compatible. And that is what a love story is. And that's something that I think romantic comedies get wrong, is that
Yeah.
the man and the woman are both feeling the exact same way.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody works for me. Nobody works for me either. I wish I could just meet someone. I wish I could just meet someone. Hey, we met. Yeah, we did. And you're perfect. You are. Wait, you're not perfect. Oh, you're not. And then they break up for a bit, then they get back together, and then everything's fine. And that's
True.
not how it works. This is a bit closer, because
Yeah.
it takes into account all of those
That-
nuances.
That is definitely more authentic. And also, I mean,
I
like,
agree.
and especially now that I'm thinking about it more, like I enjoy her character. I think her character is very honest description of like what, and I can sort of speak to this as a woman too. Like I always want to try to do right by my family, but also like as a modern woman in life, like I want to do what I want to do. And there is a clashing in that. And there is sort of like a massive push to be of your family in a way that I think men are kind of like pushed out to be like, no, you get to go explore, do what you want, go adventure. But as a woman, like I tell people that I'm not super close with my family, and it's like, oh, why, honey? Like, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, like, of course, I love them. They're my family, but they're different from who I am and who I want to be. So I make distance there in that sense, but I always have this like guilt about it. So I can definitely feel for her character, and I do overall really enjoy her character too. It's really just, it's the other stuff that gets in the way of this story that kills me. I'm just like, oh, that's so cute. I love how he has aged spectacularly, but she looks basically the same.
Yeah, they both actually
great.
aged really well. And this is 2015. This is 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, they still look pretty good. Like, they don't look their age, neither of them.
It was incredible. We love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, bottom line, was this my favorite Bollywood movie I've seen? No. Trying to think what would be in that case, though.
Was it the Dang Dang or Bang Bang? Is it the correct
I didn't watch
version?
Bang Bang, actually. No. Koi Mil Gya was like acid for me, and it was also the first one I ever
That's
saw.
such a fun movie to watch.
It was literally, my mind was blown, and I had to like stop and think for a while.
Angelina, you need to watch Koi Mil Gya. Where did we find that? That was on Z.
Like, no idea.
That was
Send me the link, y'all.
It was a
weird
weird first one for me to see. I had never seen a Bollywood movie before it, and it's got aliens and.
Should I make my mom watch one over Christmas? I don't know what her response will be.
Koi Mil Gya would be a good one, because it's sort of
that lady is a savage, but then she's in love with those weird cheesy Lifetime movies, so she might love it. I don't know.
She'll like some of the other ones.
E.T. It's sort of
kind of, but that's not even doing it justice.
No, I know.
Dan, what was the other one with Shah Rukh Khan we watched where it's in New York?
Kal Ho Na Ho.
Kal Ho Na Ho. I think that one might be my favorite.
Oh, also an interesting comment was made. I said I watched a movie with a good friend of mine, and he was just like, I think I keep wanting to call him Shaka Khan. I'm so sorry. Shah Rukh Khan. He might be the most famous actor in the world based off of not only his wide like popularity, but because India's population is so large that he is officially like the most famous man in the world.
He's also like one of the highest, if not the highest paid actor.
That's what you said. Yeah. I'd be curious to know like how much he actually makes.
Oh, it's got to be up there, like in the millions. I mean, I think back in the 80s and 90s, Hollywood actors used to make more money because they would get like much bigger deals, because star power was a real big thing. Nowadays, it's sort of diminished, and like you go to the movies for the characters, much less so than the actors playing those characters. Whereas in Bollywood, you still have that tradition. And so these actors still hold much greater cultural clout than maybe a lot of Hollywood actors do today. Because like, I think it speaks to the pop culture of each of like, you know, like the society. Like I think in American culture and in like anywhere where Hollywood is consumed, that culture is different than where Bollywood's and greater Indian cinema is today. Like the value and the clout it has within the larger culture. It speaks to that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, this is Kal Ho Na Ho, by the way. You can they shot a lot of it in
he's
New
from
York. So
isn't he from 3 Idiots or no?
Oh, the one on the left?
The actor? Yeah.
No. He's Saif Ali Khan. I think the one you're talking about is Amir Khan. They're all Khans. Like Khans kind of dominate Bollywood. It's a thing. But there you go. That's Manhattan. Yeah, there's the bull. It's like Wall Street. Anyway, so that was Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, or more commonly known or shortened as DDLJ, because for most people it's a mouthful. So I love this movie. It's about as old as I am, and so I've always lived in a world where this movie existed, other than the first 9.5 months that I have no recollection of because I was too young to remember anything.
For sure.
It is it's kind of like the Titanic of Bollywood, and I mean, it's not because there's similarities in terms of they're both love stories. They both have Shakespearean influences, even if they're not like that archetype per se. But yeah. Well, this was fun.
Well, yeah.
I thought it was. If you watch this in a theater, even like you go to the Marathi Mandir today, they do have a 15-minute intermission. So you should totally feel okay taking a break watching this because 3 hours is a long time. Just letting
It
you know.
is.
Yeah.
It is like hardcore. I think it was like 3 hours and 9 minutes or something. I was like, whoa, cool. Good times.
Okay, so I know we talked about this last time, but we will, the next time we do a Bollywood movie, we won't just do watch a Bollywood movie alone. We will compare, just go with it with, what's the name of the Indian movie that I mentioned?
You
the
would
other
know better
day?
than I would.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, no,
like,
I know.
no idea.
Why am
That's
I
your,
asking you guys?
it's like
Maine
that's
Pyar
your
Kyun Kiya?
forte.
Something like that. I think that's what the name of the movie is. Basically, one is Adam Sandler, one is another Khan, Salman Khan, who you have not, I don't think, seen any movies of yet. So there's like 4 or 5 different actors who are like all go by the last, they all have the last name Khan, and they're all like 5 of the top 10 actors of the last 50 years of Bollywood, like most popular
Right.
and most successful.
Popular
Salman
Indian
Khan actually
accent.
has 3 of like, I think the top 5 highest grossing movies in Bollywood history or Indian cinema history star him. So there's, anyway.
Cool. Sounds
It's a
good.
wrap.
Let me know.
on DDLJ.
Sounds good. Let us know if you've watched it and in the comments. And if you agree or disagree with one of us, all of us. It's not possible to agree with all of us, I don't think. But thanks for watching, and let us know what you think. Oh my gosh, really? That's news to me.
Yeah, we're going back there.
Up next, here's our segment, Hey Magdalena, from what was it, a while back, the $5 milkshake from Pulp Fiction, how to make it.
I gotta know what a $5 shake tastes like. God damn, it's a pretty fucking good milkshake.
Guess what you're making today? Oh, the hunkers. All you need is 1 banana, medium, 3 drops of vanilla essence, 300 grams of vanilla ice cream, must be vanilla, 200 grams of natural yogurt, 250 milliliters of milk, any will do, and 2 tablespoons of clear honey.
Moments later.
That's a pretty fucking good milkshake.
Told you.
I don't know, it was worth $5, it was pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Next time on the show, we'll have seen the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, which I have optimism for, just because yikes about that updated Disney one. Plus, I think Guillermo del Toro is a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker with special appreciation for textures and colors, and his spectacles are not Hollywood spectacles, and there's something magical and different about it. It really is otherworldly, and I think it's a really great story on its own, one that deserves retelling. And just based on these images alone, like, we're definitely not getting the Disney story here, which is cool. So I'm excited for that. And then Matilda is another remake, and that's going to be a musical one. Do you have any idea which you're more excited for at this point?
Honestly, I think I'm kind of looking forward to both of them. I think they're such good staples as like children. I'm excited. I don't know if I have. I think I'm leaning more towards Matilda, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I never really watched Matilda. So
I thought you were not a fan of musicals. Or are you a fan of, are you a fan?
Me? You know, if they're done well, I like musicals. If the music is good, I like musicals. So no, I don't have a problem with musicals at all. I like music. It's I thought Dear Evan Hansen was horrible, but oh, look at that. Look at that.
Wait,
Jaw
hold
dropped.
it.
You can't possibly say that you liked that movie.
It's hilarious.
Did you like that movie?
Soundtrack to that movie, the musical won a Tony. Okay. The soundtrack is incredible.
They changed the plot, and not all. A lot of the songs sound the same, and a lot of the singing, I wasn't a fan of.
I think that image from Matilda is like very characteristic of your reach.
And Andrew's canceled. Moving on. No,
just got canceled.
Yeah, canceled culture.
That's how.
Angelina.
Wow,
Andrew did a musical review of Dear Evan Hansen that
I'm gonna go back
I think
and watch
I will
it,
use next
and then
week
I'm
on the
gonna
show.
bring it back, and I'm gonna just be like point out all the things that are massively wrong with it. No, in general, I just think that the story is it's a story that we needed an updated version of. There's not a lot of musicals that there's just in a world where there's so many remakes. I think it was an important story, and I think the music is so moving. I am not your typical musical theater kid. There's a reason I didn't fit in at OCU. Sorry, we're name dropping. I don't sing every single waking minute of the day, and I don't listen to show tunes at all times of the day. I think those people are crazy. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. But I will say that it's one of 3 musicals. Hamilton is one of them. Sarah Bareilles musical, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like not getting to me, and Dear Evan Hansen. Those are the 3 musicals and Bridges of Madison County. So 4 that I keep the soundtrack in my like songs, and I will listen to it. And when they come on, I sing my little musical theater baby heart out with them. Okay, Andrew.
This is very entertaining to watch.
Okay?
I don't think anybody has broken Andrew quite the way you just did.
Yikes is all I have to say to that. Oh
so good.
Gosh. Yeah. Hey, different strokes for different folks. Those are not my strokes. Yikes. But
wait, we're not okay. We will okay. You know what? We are gonna play that Dear Evan and Hansen musical review on the show next week. Simply because now that it's been part of the conversation.
I don't even okay, don't judge me on it, because I don't even I'm not crazy about the work I did on that, but it's I just didn't like the movie. It made me feel bad. That was the end of that review.
It made me feel bad, but isn't the whole point of a movie to make you feel? The menu made me feel weird.
No, like it was a really negative movie, I have to say. And he's a horrible character.
Next week,
I guess so. Yeah, I don't need to drag this out. I'm gonna enjoy Pinocchio probably. I'll tell you what I think of Matilda. I won't really be comparing it to anything because I never saw Matilda. So we'll see. Oh, look at I'm just pissing her off today.
Can I just, sorry, I just want to interject a little bit. I think I'm not 100% sure about the new Matilda, because like I personally am not a big fan of a lot of Hollywood musicals, and that's I'm not generalizing, like, and I'm not saying, I mean, I will say this, I think in general, this is totally biased, that Bollywood musical movies as music, because they don't even call them musicals, because most Bollywood movies have music. They do it better. However, I will give this a shot. I think Matilda, I like the original movie. I'm not like one of those guys who's like, oh, the original is so good, you should never remake it. Like, for example, I'm a big defender of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory versus Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because I think Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is very goofy, whereas Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is very much the book on screen, and I like the book and I like that movie better. The Pinocchio, wow, Andrew's thinking in his chair. This Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio looks a lot better and way more inventive than what Disney did. I mean, I feel like Disney should have just scrapped that whatever they put out, even if Tom Hanks was a part of it, because this looks like, I mean, I can't believe Netflix is not known for their movies, like quality wise.
It looks like it's going to be a little bit dark. Like,
yeah,
That's Guillermo
like
del
and the
Toro for
original
you.
Pinocchio story
It
is
looks-
dark. So
True.
have you guys ever, it reminds me of like the old German story tales. They're like really
fables.
dark, but they're essentially. So like the old German fables are like real dark, and there's like children that get eaten, and eventually they were like created to not only sort of fulfill that like storytelling capacity, but also to kind of help keep children in line and like teach them how to be like good kids.
There's
And
a
this
lot to learn from the Pinocchio
kinda
story.
looks like that.
No,
Like it looks like
that's
it's gonna be a
what
little
Pinocchio is.
freaky.
That's what Pinocchio is.
the
And
original
I-
message of Pinocchio got completely changed and Disneyfied for the
Well,
most
it's
iconic
like do not
on-screen
tell a
iteration.
lie, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
It's so much more. It's so much more than that. It's about authenticity. It's about self-discovery. It's about defining yourself as a man. And it's like, there's so much that, yeah, it's in there. It's just, it's to look at, and the original Disney one does a good job of exploring all those themes. It just doesn't go deep into them. The
Yeah,
updated one really glosses
I haven't seen
over
the
it.
updated one.
Don't.
I didn't watch it. I heard bad things and I just didn't go see it.
I think
It looks
that's
Yeah.
one
kinda
of those rare
creepy, so.
Tom Hanks movies that most people don't like.
So
You know,
sad,
there's
'cause
always
Tom Hanks
I
is
wouldn't
so
even call it a
good.
Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, that's probably
I don't-
best, right?
By the way, so Pinocchio and Matilda, we're gonna check out both of them. I think both are, at least one, if not both, have limited theatrical runs, very limited theatrical runs, and then they're obviously gonna be on Netflix.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of them will be good, if not maybe both. They both are holiday centric, so that's great. You know, coming out in December. One other movie we're definitely gonna talk about next week, though, which could become the biggest movie of the year, and certainly it's gonna be the biggest movie of the month, is Avatar: The Way of Water, and its final trailer drop recently. I'll be honest with you, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. I just was underwhelmed because they're not telling you what the story is at all. It just feels like this is the same movie as before with updated visuals. Like, have you guys felt like they've given us anything new and unique about this?
I haven't seen the new trailers.
Some of the images on screen are from the new trailer. I mean, they're images, but it just, to me, oh, here we go. There's some video here. There's obviously a visual spectacle, but beyond that,
Yeah.
I get concerned that the story's not going to be anything to marvel
Different.
about. Though the
Yeah.
first movie didn't have a revolutionary story either, but it's the highest grossing movie of all time. So, you know. Any thoughts?
I can imagine myself being from the 1600s and looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, is that real? And that's wonderful. You know, that's sort of the, you know, is this footage from the other planets that you've discovered since I was alive? Maybe, but like, it's I'm not gonna knock it. It looks
Yeah.
really impressive. That's not why I go to movies.
It does kind of look like it's the same storyline, essentially, just from the graphics. You're seeing them defending their home or someone else's home from the outside world. It's the same thing over again.
Yeah, there was a lot of jungle in the first one. There's a lot of water in this one. By the way, James Cameron has a plan to potentially wrap the whole thing up in the third movie, which they've already shot a bunch of because of the way, from production standpoint, it just made sense, and financially it made sense to kind of shoot
2 times.
Yeah, like not in the entire third movie, but Avatar 3 is already mostly shot.
You know, it would be a good twist for me. And James Cameron, if you're listening, you can steal this. I think it'd be fun to like have there be a real twist where they're discovering more and more of Pandora, and they just happen upon like the New York City, and like this just happens to be one culture that like wasn't civilized, but like they just happen to discover them first, and then they go in and it's just like there's a whole other world. They're wearing business suits and stuff, and everything's just like basically the same.
But that kind of defeats the whole purpose of, well, no, it actually doesn't. It could run in parallel. The whole idea of the Avatar is just an allegory on, Western colonizers and taking over and ravaging and then destroying like indigenous people's lands and basically, you know, conducting genocide, which this movie takes I mean, if you look at some of the promotional images for this movie, it takes a very much more of a, I think, a heavy-handed approach at the whole idea of that whole, you know, like could basically trying to make the Na'vi go extinct. And I'll be honest,
we needed more heavy-handed content.
That's the one thing that concerns me, is that the first movie came out at a time where this wasn't nearly as prominently being done in every other, like virtually every other movie or TV show, that heavy-handed messaging. And the first movie wasn't very heavy-handed. I, for the first time, realized that it was such an allegory to that, you know, the concept of global warming and indigenous people, all that stuff, well after I saw the movie. But I feel like this movie might go, if it goes that heavy-handed, and the story isn't that much different from the original movie, I'd be concerned, because I don't know how well that's going to go across with all the audiences. That could be divisive. Who knows?
Could be, but we'll find out. In the meantime, I'm probably most excited for Pinocchio. We'll see about Matilda.
I think that will be the better of the two.
We'll meet you back here next week to talk all about it. In the meantime, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I think that's all of them. Anywhere you get a podcast, be sure to listen to us, watch us. We'll cut these things up for you to share with your friends. Be sure to do that too. And we'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.
Very, very quick aside before we finish. We should totally do a dueling Dear Evan Hansen review that's a musical, with Angelina and Andrew on one side, like each sort of just, you know, like back and forth musical. Just think about it. Just
the showdown.
Okay, we'll table that another time.
Okay.
The less I have to talk about that movie, the better. Okay, well, we'll talk about it. All right, guys, have a good week. I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye. I'm waving, but you can't see it because I'm frozen on screen.
Right. Goodbye.
Yeah, here's that. Okay.